Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and thanks for stopping by. Our dedicated team will guide you through with the latest updates and theories at Starbase, Texas. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon for future streams.
9, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Zach Golden. Welcome to another Starbase Weekly live stream. Got an excellent show for y'all today. Things are starting to ramp up with pre-flight testing. We finally have the ship 39, or as SpaceX seems to be calling it, or maybe not SpaceX, but at least Elon, SN1, V3 SN1. Not sure how I feel about that, but we'll see if that becomes official or not. But yeah, joining us today will be BJ. BJ, thanks for being here.
Glad to be here. Thanks for leading our discussion. And yeah, I'm not quite sure how I feel about that new temporary naming structure. I'm hoping that is an unofficial off-the-cuff comment, but glad everyone's here to join us for this weekend.
Agreed. And we also have Alex with us here today. Thanks for making it, Alex.
Morning, all. And yeah, somebody still likes software naming conventions, it would seem.
Is that you?
The whole V3 SN1.
Oh, yeah.
Anti-versioning.
To some degree, it makes sense because the V3 ships, or at least the booster for sure, is like a fundamentally different vehicle, so it kind of makes sense. But so was going from booster 4 to booster 7 technically. So yeah, I mean, and they didn't do it then, so I don't get why do it now. I mean, I don't know. At this point, it seems like you might end up having different serial numbers or repeat serial numbers possibly if you have manufacturing in 2 locations. Are they gonna each factory is gonna have their own SN1, or are they gonna have to consult each other to figure out what's next in line, or what?
See, that's where you're going to have the RRV SN1s and or the
Yeah.
.S and .R. But yeah, no, it's because didn't at one point they try and push that the boosters? No, that was everything's the same version number, even if it wasn't. They're just
Yeah.
crazy with the naming conventions. That's all.
They should just give them actual names like they do with hurricanes, you know? Each one, there's enough names out there that they could probably do it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that would
Uh,
actually be a fun thing though if you have like a competitions almost, you know, where for SpaceX fans where, you know, they have like a raffle or something for your name to be the next booster name or something.
oh,
I'd be down.
I'd make a little extra side money. That'd be great.
All right, everybody, we'll hop into today's show. We'll start where we always do at Massey's, where, as I said, Ship 39 or SN1, whatever you want to call her, is now on the static fire test stand for its first cryo testing. And this is actually fairly odd and in some ways, mostly because I mean, number one, this is a massive like structural test that they're doing here. So we'll kind of get into that. I think the weird part about that to like address first is that we were kind of expecting them to use the other static fire stand, which they've been working on. So we'll kind of I want to kind of get BJ and Alex's opinions on this. Um, so they actually modified the new transport stand, or sorry, the new static fire test stand, which I think for the most part we were expecting this would be what they were going to use for cryo at the static fire stand, and uh, in order to be a part of that huge structural test they're doing. But apparently it's not ready in time, so they used the other one. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on this. It almost makes me think that um, this only had value with ship 39 because theoretically they should be done with um, structural qualification testing on the at the cryo station at least by ship 41. So maybe ship 39 and ship 40 would use this, but it's weird that it's not being used right now. It makes me wonder if 39 will come back, be put back on top of this one in order to do its actual thrust puck test, because in all reality, the only test that is actually performing currently that is truly relevant for the next flight is this one. So I'm curious your guys' thoughts on that.
I think for me, the only thing that I can think of is that there must be placing, unless they're going to do what you're saying and bring it back and do a stand swap so they can still do the thrust sims on over the trench. I'm wondering if they're just putting that much faith in their build construction that the 39.1 testing on the old stand is sufficient enough to confirm that the design of the new aft dome and puck is good. I mean, it seemed kind of risky to me that they wouldn't go back, but yeah, it's interesting that they were in that much of a rush to not wait for that stand to be ready to come out here to do some of the testing. I'm not so sure that that being able to put the rams in and push on the dome is necessarily that important to the other things that are happening with the flaps and the bumpers, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, sorry, go ahead, Alex.
oh, it's until 39.1 clears up from the old puck former uh puck thrust system. Yeah, it's a bit confusing because I would say pretty much everything they're doing right now at the trench is for 40 and beyond, since they're not catching.
Right.
And
Yeah. I mean, and that's I guess a whole nother question. Like, if this is a single qualification test or a stress test that every vehicle needs to go through. Um, and you know, one of the things that I've kind of been thinking about with this, um, and we'll kind of get into the individual things they've been testing. But all of this is clearly related to um, stress testing for extreme cases during reentry. So, like during the past few test flights, they've been attempting, more aggressive maneuvers, whether that's the, you know, power slide, which I think is something they're going to have to do either way. But I also think they, if I remember correctly, said that they were intentionally being more aggressive with that. But then also with their actual, during the entry phase, they've intentionally been coming in hotter than they think is actually necessary, in order to stress test basically the TPS system, right? And so it's interesting though, that you know that this would be happening now, because it's almost, to me, it seems like the proof of surviving those outlier situations that you don't expect to ever be in may not necessarily be enough when it comes to the FAA. Like that's kind of what I'm getting out of this. In other words, this test makes me think that there was no chance they were ever going to attempt to recover a V3 ship, because it seems to me like they actually, like, just like every other qualification test they do, it seems like they need to be able to put a number, like assign like a safety factor for every critical system, right? And so, like, it seems to me like this is actually putting numbers to it instead of saying, "Hey, it survived. This is what we did, and it survived." Like that's not an actual, like, number. You know what I mean? That doesn't tell you the aerodynamic loads you're able to withstand. Specifically, if you're flying over populated areas, which this is going to have to do on its way back to Starbase. So, I mean, to me, it seems like this is part of that FAA qualification to actually be able to return the ship, because they did do similar things with the booster as well. Not quite this extensive, but relative to what the booster needs to do, I think it was fairly comparable.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that happening. And this way you have physical numbers to tie, not just, hey, our strain gauges and we are applying this much force to maintain control authority and positioning of the control surfaces.
Yeah.
And you'll also get to be able to test some of the overall how the whole structure is being affected, since it's a much more controlled than the dynamics of flight.
Yeah, even going on like what you're just saying, I know some of the speculation that we've been throwing around is that more of this flap pulling is more about like checking any changes that they've done. I know we speculate there's some motor changes and number of things that have changed. But almost, dude, your comment almost does make it feel like they were doing those intentional stress tests during some of those returns. It almost feels to me like in line with that, maybe they weren't seeing as high of loading in the sensors when they were trying to stress the flaps, and they're going, okay, well, flight experience isn't telling us that it's really good. So here we need to be able to like put a larger force on it than what it's actually seeing in flight for that qualification almost.
Yeah, because they've, for lack of, not for lack of trying, taken the ship to failure in flight. I mean, the boosters have come much closer to, actually, they arguably have killed it in flight, from loadings. But yeah,
Yeah.
and everything on this is, it's kind of interesting when you start looking at how they're testing it.
Right. Yeah. Like, we haven't been able to kill a ship yet, so we gotta, um, well, at least not in the way that we want to. so,
Right.
so we have to do these tests in order to get the data that we're not able to force to happen. I mean, it's interesting. So, I mean, on these, I didn't realize the pulleys were up here. I didn't look at those before. But yeah, so I think there's what, 3 attachment points on each flap. There's 3 attachment points on the lower flaps, um, and then obviously the for the catch lifting point. This is weird though. It's because it's much lower than the actual lifting point, right? So
Yeah, I think this is trying to see if they can buckle the tank between the dome and the top of the payload section.
So to just squeeze it and
Yeah,
Yeah, it's seeming
'cause-
like it's more of that what we saw here at Massey's with those structures previously, where they test that. It'll be interesting to see if they try and test that 2 different heights, like they did with what was it, 16 or whatever that test tank was. But yeah, it definitely doesn't seem to be anything related to the lift points, like I kind of thought it might. When we look at some of the ground images, that lift point is way too close to where the hanging point is to be able to get it high enough to do anything with it.
right.
and then the other thing what I'd be curious is if they roll one of these out to the launch site on the stand, because it should be high enough that they can do the slap test with it sitting on the stand, bolted down next to the OLM. If they wanted to.
I mean, I don't think that's not a good idea. It just this whole situation and even trying to speculate on even further things that they could do makes me question whether or not this is actually a flight article. The only reason I even think it is a flight article is because Elon keeps saying that they're going to fly in March. And to me, that means that this has to be a flight article. I just don't believe that it is, though. So I mean, I mean, flaps are one thing. You can swap out flaps after this test if just to be precautious, or if there actually is an issue. I'm imagining that's between the motors possibly, and not necessarily the actual mounting points. The like I feel like anything that could be damaged as far as flaps go, theoretically could just be swapped out. But if you squeeze too hard on this or something like that, and you even um if there's any damage at all, then all of a sudden the ship's totaled, right? So it's interesting
Right.
to do this with the flight article.
And yeah, well, part of it is just for logistics as well. You can't really make a test tank if they even want to do the same sort of slap campaign that they did with for the booster and the tanks. Just I mean, you have to have it high enough off the ground, and what you can't drop this, at least currently, directly on top of the OLM. So,
Well,
um,
what you could do is, I mean, this is what test tanks like you know ship 26 and 27 theoretically should have been for. You know what I mean? Full scale
yeah,
ships, no tiles. But I mean, at the same time, I guess the tiles potentially have, just with the sheer number of them, affect structural the way that loads travel through the structure. I mean, they're not load bearing at all, but I mean, I imagine just their presence, having a skin over the vehicle, maybe has some effect on some of these tests that make it necessary to actually have them installed instead of not have them. Um,
uh, it'll change the resonance frequency for sure. Whether or not
right,
that's an issue, in that regime. The other thing is how the tiles will react to the sudden impulses, and since they all have move independently, and whether or not they bind up and you start getting cracking. But yeah, it's that whole dilemma of how to rigidly attach the tiles, but also allows them enough freedom that they won't destroy each other like they seem to have been doing before the crunch wrap.
right. Is there any chance that this thing secretly has engines on it?
Um,
I don't
I
think
mean, if
it's
they're
not
not,
zero. I don't think it's
normally we
not
only see them.
zero.
Yeah, I mean, we only see them. We only know when it has them because they roll through the front entrance into Mega Bay 2. But I don't know if there's been enough view to see that, and we also aren't sure whether or not they're able to bring them in through the factory at this point. Um, so I feel like, yeah, like you were saying, BJ, maybe non-zero chance that there may actually be engines installed on this. That would explain why they're using this this stand versus waiting for the other one. But
Yeah, I think the only thing that would make me think not is that I'm pretty sure that the fact that the RVACs have always come through the main doors as opposed to the side doors makes me think that that door that goes into the factory isn't tall enough to put an RVAC in, which would suggest that we would have seen it if there were engines installed. But
right.
given the fact that we can't see underneath there and it's not on an actual thrust sim stand, it's not like we can say, well, there's other hardware in there, so it physically couldn't be there. But
Right.
For optics, I would be highly shocked for them to static fire without finishing their validation of 39.1, as well as doing a thrust sim on the base.
Yeah, to like do both, miss both of those basically. Yeah, I mean the way that they've been going with everything else lately, as far as like just dramatically stepping up the level of testing that they're doing on the ground, makes me that alone makes me think there's zero chance that they would static fire without having that thrust sim test performed. But I mean, it wouldn't shock me if they did. I just think that maybe they're on a different path, that's not even an option anymore.
Yeah, and the other thing is how dramatically different is the ship internals on this version versus 2. Since it
Right.
for the outside appears almost they're doing these sort of Intel sort of ways that they used to, a major change and then a minor revision. And the booster's obviously getting its major upgrades that it didn't get from 1 to 2.
Yeah.
And,
This whole change in testing almost makes me wonder if it's like a single person implementing the new basically philosophy of testing. I almost wonder if it feels like a Gwyn Shotwell type thing. It's like, all right, guys, like we did this on V2 and enough of that. Enough, cowboy. Throw that cowboy hat in the trash. We're done with that. Okay.
yeah, I'm of the opinion that all the excess mass they had for payloads went into just reinforcing the previous stack, so they didn't have to do all of this evaluation, since they're just validating the concept in major subsystems. But now that they're trying to make actual production flight model, that they're shedding weight, the multiplication of their structural test elements that are all over the place here. It's
Right.
Okay.
Are there any other things on this other than the locations that I mentioned, 3, 3, 3, 3, and then the side
yeah,
points?
you do have that extra set of the two rams that are underneath the forward flaps that have that bar across it. Kind of the.
Do we need a ground image to be able to see that?
No, you can kind of see it in here. There's a couple angles. Yeah, you can see it in this one even. There's a couple of the more top downs. You can actually see how the angle that it almost does feel like that there was 2 points in the bottom of the forward flaps that didn't look the same as the other attachments, but it almost does feel like that bar is the right length to attach to both ends of the bottom of the forward flap for them to pull down on the flaps as well as to pull them back towards the stand. If at the bottom of the image, just underneath that lower forward flap, you can see where that little basket cage is on the arm. That arm that goes across the basket, left to right there, is connected to that right. That's the arm it's connected to. But you can kind of see that cage. Maybe I'm not getting the words out, but right there, that rectangular cage. Across there's a bar that's sitting over the top of it, left to right. Yep, that right there. That is connected. There's a piston connected to the middle of that. And there's attachment points on both ends of that bar that are and the bar is about the same height as the bottom of the forward flap. And there's a few of us who might think that in addition to being able to pull on the hinges, they may be able to pull down on the actual flap attachments as well.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that how they have this sort of rod connected, that they'll just drop a line from that rod to that for 2 of the attachment points, so that because instead of attaching it to the bottom, but attach it to the actual same point that the other cable are attached. Because if you look at the angle of the flap, putting a downward force as well as a horizontal force would sort of tip the vector over for the force you're putting into it.
Are the dead ends of these pulleys attached to the vehicle?
That one is, yeah. You can see the turnbuckle that's coming towards, right there. That turnbuckle is connected. It's just that one's the topmost point, and it's just slack right now because the flaps are folded in. The other two haven't been connected yet.
Yeah, at that end is
okay.
where I
see
think
what's
they would.
happening.
At that end of the turnbuckles where I think they'd connect it to that lower arm. Not, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. If it's bolted to the bottom of the flap, like BJ was speculating, they'll do the same thing.
What is that?
The lockdown for the sliding platform.
Yeah, it's that embed down in the bridge over the trench.
Like the whole square pattern of them? I didn't know they had holes in them.
Yeah, that's one of them, yeah.
Yeah, that's where one of many locking points.
Huh. I never noticed those before, the holes in those.
It's giving up its secrets because I know when it first came out, we were speculating if that's what those were for, and yeah.
That many of them? Okay, I'm not going to get myself distracted by this. Anyways, so I guess moving on a little bit, was there anything else we should talk about this, or should we move over to S39.1?
I think that covers everything that's at this particular spot right now, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen anything with 39.1 this week, right?
I don't think so. I thought, for some reason, I was thinking there might have been one more test earlier in the week, but I might be remembering that wrong.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was for this tank or if that was just them doing their conditioning for the hot fire mount.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it looks like I just noticed over here in the tank farm that I'm guessing this may have been last week. They got the 2 remaining LOX pumps in there.
Yeah.
It was last week.
I think it's been a couple weeks. The third one, I think, was actually 3 or 4 weeks ago, and the fourth one was like the week after, or maybe 2 after the last one.
Okay.
It's definitely been a week or 2.
But that was after booster testing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for booster testing, this section of the LOX pumps was not utilized.
Yeah, so they're still using these ones over here, right? And I'm still waiting to see if they're going to remove these or if they're...
I'm hoping they remove them and move the nitrogen storage up there since they're running out of... It looks like this is going to be the first time they're using the new pumps with the vehicle.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I mean, these ones seem actually pretty fast, though. Like, the propellant loading times on the booster during those cryo tests have been shockingly fast. Or maybe it's just because I'm always watching them in time lapses. That's probably what's really going on.
Their fill procedure looks significantly different, too. With how much...
Yeah, it makes it hard to actually tell how fast it's filling with their new sequence. Yeah, next to these pumps, they are digging out this, forming a new base for something here, which is kind of similar to what they did with the original can crusher right next to this. But I don't see any embeds in here yet. Doesn't mean there aren't any.
Yeah, we'll have to see with the OG can crusher because of the different. It sits on a larger quantity of feet. I wonder if it'll just be a reinforced pad without actual embeds, whereas the old booster cryo stand kind of was a little bit more point loaded with the 4 points.
Mm-hmm.
They're hoarding all the embeds at the launch site.
Yeah, all those ones. And it'll be curious to see. I mean, it could just be that we haven't seen him yet, but I mean, it looks like they've got one mat down with enough rebar sitting next to it to do a second mat. So that we were talking about last night that hole's probably deeper than it actually appears from most of these straight down shots.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you could see the shadow right here. It's a pretty deep shadow. This is if they put another standard, I don't know. It's just funny to me how dense this structural testing area is. I mean, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, is there even another structural test stand that we've been seeing that would make sense to even be here?
I mean, I don't think it's going to be a new one. My speculation is that the old can crusher was just kind of set in that particular location. I think it's going to move over to an actual
Oh, okay.
reinforced pad because that's just sitting on the concrete that was there before.
Right. That makes sense. Probably crusted concrete, huh?
It's but it's not putting too much dynamic load since it's all the reaction forces are pretty much contained inside the test fixture. But for the top down, it's also a great way to optimize the space to just use that 11K to lift the vehicles in and out.
Only here and not have to do it anywhere else, basically.
Yeah.
Well, actually, hold on. Sorry, they do have to lift them onto this one at least, right?
Yeah.
These two, everything else, and this one as well, technically.
Yeah,
Actually,
I
this
mean,
one
they
can go back and forth to the launch site or the build site.
whether they want to or not.
It's interesting that it's still there, to tell you the truth. Like the whole, it's the way that they've done. I'm surprised they didn't like get rid of this the moment they did all this stuff on the static fire test stand, because it's like that's what they're doing there is basically what this was kind of designed to do, other than the fact that it can't really do aft flaps. I guess it's not tall enough for that.
Well, and the fact they just started reconfiguring that one.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yeah. That ring that's been sitting by it for 6 months, whatever, now has been put into it now.
Is that the middle ring or the center?
Yeah.
That's a thicker one. That's a thick one that had looks like that had a set of maybe sea level attachment points on it, and then that extra set. But we've been confused
This is
about
the piece
it.
that made everybody think they were going to 35 engines.
Yeah. Well, it's one of them. I mean, it's one of them. I mean, they've got those flatter ones that were used for the actual like the booster thrust sim ones that have been removed, and then the new ones that have been put in there for what they're reconfiguring the Super Crusher for. But yeah, this is that other one that's been sitting around, tempting us to speculate heavily.
I think that's been there well over a year, because I thought when they were originally configuring the Super Crusher,
It wouldn't surprise me. I know it's been around forever, and it's seemingly never been used until this week. Well, hasn't been moved since this week, I should say, not used.
Well, the other big update, I guess, right now is what they're doing with, now that they have 18.1 out of here. They have started to make some modifications. So they've added these short extension pieces on here, which appear to have clevis brackets attached to them, probably for more actuators.
Yeah, it's a relocation of the torsion mounts for the can crusher for the top hat.
Just raising them.
Yep. Yeah, it's the
The
same
old
ones.
are
They
down here,
were
right?
they were a little higher than that. They were up higher, but it looks like they've actually rotated them as well, because they were previously over on where the scaffold ladder is, and then I think to the one above it, I think, is where they used to be attached. So it seems like where they're mounting is also rotated for some reason.
And in the middle of this, they've dropped something else in here as well. Sorry if I'm looking for a better top down of that. I don't know if there is one.
Yeah, there was a few different ones that saw all three sets of the rings.
I feel
The
like
two
I'm
smaller,
missing
yeah.
images.
But yeah, essentially you had you have the two smaller flat rings that are identical to the ones that the center 3 and mid 10 Rams were on for the booster testing structure, and then and then that bigger ring that we saw assembled at Sanchez with the 20 legs and the welding surface is what's been added in there, likely probably for a what booster 18.3.2 or whatever the
But
next thing is going to be that replaces it.
and that's purely based on the fact that they still have um, the clevis brackets for 20 actuators on the outside, right?
Yeah, I mean, you still have the 20 around the very outside to put the pull down rams for the crusher cap can get put on there. That ring has now covered up the mounts for both the booster arms as well as the 20 outer ring engine push rams as well. Those are all underneath this ring. So it's obviously just that infrastructure tells you that a test structure that doesn't have a proper aft is what's going in there next.
Could it be ship related? Because this other object down here seems like it would more than likely be ship related. Or am I?
I'm
Well, it
not.
just reminds me of the device they put on top of that nose cone that one time. But maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I know initially I thought 39.1 was going to go in there just because of the fact that new set of rings made me, in some of what we were seeing that might have been just staging of the components, felt like they were configuring those 2 extra rings to do sea level and RVAC thrust rams. But the fact that they've now lowered it, they didn't put it on top of the clamp arms. They've installed it on the actual bottom surface, and with extending the top where the cap goes, whatever's going in there is taller. So I feel like it's in booster in 18.3 was a taller article than 18.1. So it wouldn't have been able to just been swapped in without adjusting the top hat or where it's mounting. And then obviously
So
what
you're
we're
thinking 18.3 maybe come in here.
That's my current guess because everything we're seeing right now out of the old can crusher with that test structure that's added to the side is that 39.1 is headed there to do flap mount testing as well.
That part is crazy. Like, why? If they're doing basically the same thing technically on 39.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest
I
thing here is that we can see that at least the way I'm kind of seeing on this, is the way that the actuators are set up on here. This one looks like they can, in addition having that one ram on the bottom that would be able to rotate the flap itself, like a flap simulator arm. These other 4 that kind of come from the 4 corners look like they're actually going to stress more on the actual hinge, the attachment point of the hinge on the vehicle, which the other structures don't really test because they're more. It seems like those ones are more testing the motors and that linkage that controls the flaps as opposed to the flap mountings.
Yeah, the other one's for sort of a tug of war with the motors.
That's a good way to put it. I was actually literally just thinking about that in my head though. I was wondering if they'll actually allow the motors to fight back against the actuators or something like that. How would that even work?
Because they're pulling with ropes to simulate aerodynamic forces. So
Right.
Yeah.
it's sort of how it would be in flight. Meanwhile, this is like BJ was saying, you're stressing out the entire substructure, its mounting points.
Yeah, and one of the things we noticed with 39.1 is that it only has flap attachment points on the one side of the article, and then we also see that there's that extra testing arm that's coming off kind of right underneath the top of the crane that looks at that's 90 degrees off axis to the flap testing that might be related
Wait,
to.
sorry, you're talking about on this one?
Yep.
This one?
Yeah, on that it's kind of hidden behind the block of the crane right now, but that's kind of in line with what would be in line with the QD plate on 39.1 if they were going to also do some kind of pulling on the QD while also doing stuff with the flap hardware.
It's interesting, but it looks like it's only testing one side, like one flap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
39.1, because correct me, Alex, 39.1 only has one set, right? It doesn't have it on both sides.
I think so, but this is going back to their traditional sort of validation step where they're making their their vehicle stand-ins for just checking specific sub-assemblies, baffling along.
And so if 18.3 comes back here, they still haven't. They did the crush the cap. Oh, sorry. They did the cap. Oh wait, they had a leak on it, right?
Leaks
No.
were on
18.3
18.1. 18.1 had the leaks. 18.3 is the one that crumpled when they did the
Yeah.
first
Okay.
crush test.
Right. So you think that maybe now that they kind of ran out of time using this stand for that. Wait, which one was that on? That was on this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you think maybe they're moving it over to here so that they can not hold up 18.3 testing?
I think they crumpled it intentionally. Because the way the transfer tube is underneath on the bellows and the wall construction of the skirt essentially that they had beneath the common dome, there is no real way for them to apply enough force to not crumple it, and it crumpled below the dome interface.
So you were basically thinking that was a common dome test, not a forward section test?
Yeah, this is a forward section that they're doing that I think they're
In here.
equipping it to. In the Super Crusher, because I also expect those three large arms to be installed in here for also doing the grid fin testing.
Right. So basically, if that was the case, then we would probably see a lot more reinforcement around the common dome this time in order to actually allow that to not be the weak point anymore.
Yeah, it has to be the weak point. Without because, like I said, the transfer tube wouldn't give them any sort of structural. It wouldn't strengthen it since that bellows is. I mean, it's just the top of the transfer tube can has degrees of free movement.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, this is just like so intricate, the amount of testing, and it to some of them are a little bit difficult to tell which is for or I guess what is important now versus what is future testing, right? Like, the stuff they're doing with the flaps is not something that I would necessarily say is needed for flight 12 versus, interstage testing, grid fin testing, possibly. Maybe not even grid fin testing necessarily for flight 12.
Yeah,
And I'll be curious, guys. I was actually just scrolling back because this morning we saw a common dome section move over to Mega Bay 1 that I think is speculated to be the replacement for 18.3's forward that's been being worked on since they brought it back to the factory. And it doesn't look like it has any further reinforcements on it right now, so something to keep an eye on, I think.
Maybe it's something that would be added after it's integrated. Just checking the time here. I think we should see if we have any questions up to this point, because we have kind of jumped back and forth between topics a little bit.
Yeah, I think the only other maybe thing that kind of gives us some ideas on movements is that some of the test apparatus has been removed from the top of 39.1 to the pipework that comes down the side, kind of hinting that its testing at its current location might be done, and they're kind of wrapping it up to move it to wherever it's going next.
Sure, it'd be nice to start getting this ready for what it needs to be doing.
If they're even going to.
Yeah, good point. Good
I
point.
mean, that other stand still makes it. I still think that I still don't think this ship thrust sim stand is going to be used anymore. I wonder if it'll be decommissioned, and they'll use the new version, whether they only use it over the trench or maybe even change the SQD structure here to accommodate that other stand. But the fact that they didn't make any attempt to make a actual working QD plate for this article makes me think that they don't intend for this gantry to ever be used as in its current state.
I could see that. Be an interesting move, because, I mean, theoretically, you will reach a point where a ship needs to be cryo tested while another one needs to be static fired. So that would be an interesting move. But I guess the solution to that would be basically completely upgrading the gantry, like you were saying, to be taller in order to work with that higher QD when it's on the stand, the static fire stand.
Yeah.
Or they'll just put a plate on this, and that stand's going to have different uses.
Yeah, and maybe this is no longer an actual ship thrust end, and it's just a new structural article stand for all we know.
So that wouldn't make sense, though, because, I mean, all of these structural tests next year, they shouldn't be doing any more structural tests. Well, sorry, when they get to V4, they'll probably do it again. But I guess that is about a year from now, huh?
And HLS, since it has to be human rated, I'm sure we'll have a very stringent test campaign.
That's what I really want to see more than anything, is this super crusher get transitioned into HLS testing.
Hopefully,
I feel like that's its final form, is HLS testing.
Yes. Until they double the height of it for V4. But
right. Matt, have we had any questions come in yet?
Yeah, we've got some questions, and we've got some donations and memberships to go over, so I'll go ahead and do those first. We got a $25 PayPal donation from Jock Kuipers saying, got my paycheck, so money for fuel for you. We appreciate that. And Yazada sent $20 PayPal as well, so thank you so much for that. And we've got Sebastian Bauer that signed up for RGV Early Access, so welcome, Sebastian. And a big welcome to Jeroli Daniel for joining up to RGV Flight Supporter. Very much appreciated. And we've got Astro Joe, who sent one gifted membership. We've got Joe Coyote Man sent in $5 saying, here we go. And then we had Turtle Sanctuary sent 5 gifted memberships. And then Astro Joe again, he re-upped his membership for the 50th month straight. Says, time flies like a Cessna over Starbase. We appreciate that. Then Todd in Cabo, he sent 200 Mexican pesos. And his question was, has it been estimated publicly how many times they expect the current tiles/technology to be reused?
I mean, I think their goal probably is indefinitely, right? Like that's what they're shooting for, is minimal refurbishment. I mean, and we've seen them remove every single tile from a ship before and replace it, so it's not like that's not something that can happen down the line, like let's say it does 10, 20 launches and then needs that kind of complete refurbishment. But I don't think we know if they're shooting for a specific number of reuses before refurbishment, or if they're legitimately thinking that it will never become necessary. I'm not really sure.
I'm
Uh,
pretty sure the shuttle tiles were losing 5 to 10% of their mass for reentry. There is quite a bit of ablating that's happening on those tile surfaces.
right. So eventually, they're more than likely need replacement.
Yeah, they're a consumable. So yeah, how long and with different ceramic formulations, which also could be their why they keep experimenting with their different attachment and removal techniques.
Right. Cool. Next question.
All right, real quick, Andreas just re-upped their RGV flight supporter for the 28th month, saying sweet photos, keep up the great work. And the next question is from Chaos King, asking, why did they put B18.1 on the old cryo stand? I guess they can't just put it down, but why is it still around? Why not roll it back and scrap it?
I'm guessing they're talking about 39.1.
Probably.
No, they're talking about 18.1 that's over on the old booster cryo stand next to the LOX tanks. I think it's just staging. I can't imagine that they, after all the tests they did on it, that there's anything more to test on it, but maybe.
If it's a reference, we're running their simulation validations. I could see keeping it around.
I mean, they're also kind of still in the process of scrapping other things right now. So they're finishing up booster 18 and they're haven't touched 17 yet. Wait, which one is the aft section? That's 17.
Yeah,
17
17's been taken off the stand so they can work on the stand, but it hasn't been scrapped yet. But yeah, 18 is the one that's mostly scrapped.
Yeah, I feel like maybe this is just a good place to have it until then. But at the same time, they did add things onto the stand just to be able to put a test article on top of this. So maybe there's something else that will happen on here.
Yeah, maybe. All right, next question's from Saad Usmani, asking, when do we expect B19 to roll out?
I think maybe we'll get back to that when we come to the launch site. That will, I mean, because it's hard to make predictions on that without going to the launch site. So we'll save that one.
No worries. The next one is from Lev0824, asking, when will the new cryo/crab test stand be ready for S39?
I mean, technically, I mean, they may not even need it. Depends on what their actual plans are. If they do plan on putting it on the other static fire stand versus to do the thrust sim testing. As far as transitioning the other one to be used, it at this point doesn't necessarily seem like that's what's going to happen. But I think after this is off of the cryo testing stand, we'll see whether or not they end up making more modifications to it or not. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to predict if they're talking about this one when that would be ready. If they're talking about the one at Sanchez, then it seems to me like they're mostly still only need to add the actual hold down clamps. But
Yeah, I feel
yeah.
the fact that the readiness of that new stand really makes it seems to suggest that they're skipping it. I don't think it's necessarily wise, but I mean, they haven't started doing any of the actual actuators on it. They're still kind of finishing up some of the last structural elements to it. So, I mean, it's a couple week, 2, maybe or 3 weeks out from even being ready to have a ship put on it. So I feel like it's going to really mess with any timeline. Even an April pipeline is probably going to be hard to do if they want to do a structural test with that. And obviously the old stand here, even if 39.1 got off of it, there's a lot of work with the clamps and stuff to even make that ready for a full ship to go on.
Yeah.
All right, and the next question's from Schizo Quark, asking, do you think they will be simulating various flight regimes in the physical flap tests?
Almost certainly, yeah. I mean, it's given that they, as we're kind of suspecting, they weren't able to get this data during flight, then they're, I guess, by default, testing a different flight regime, something that they weren't able to actually do in flight. So, yeah. Everything they do related to qualification testing, by default, is always testing different flight regimes.
All right, and the next one is from Chaos King, asking, but what is the benefit of using a crab stand for cryo over the actual cryo stand? Is it structural or?
The benefit is what's ready right now, and the fact that they're in a phase of testing, of qualification testing, that's bigger than any qualification testing phase they've ever done. I mean, they've, getting ready for Flight 1, there was arguably more test articles leading up to that point, but there were never that many at the same time, and they didn't have the ability to actually test them at the same time. And because they didn't have that ability, they were actually willing to just simply not perform certain tests until after it was actually needed. So a lot of their tests were late in general. And almost every single qualification test happened after the actual vehicle was already performing its, actual cryo testing. So yeah, I think that it really just comes down to the fact that they want to start testing ships, can't do it here. So that's the benefit, is that doing it on these stands allows them to start testing now instead of waiting.
Zach, you mean it's exactly the same as the first one, since they are still qualifying the design and they're.
I was just thinking about that,
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess technically it hasn't necessarily changed all that much, but they're not skipping things, so it has changed a little bit. They're trying.
They haven't
trying to-
thrust simmed this vehicle yet, and I personally don't think that crab stand is a replacement thrust sim. I think that's going to be for even more qualification testing.
Yeah, I mean, could be possible, yeah. It's just weird, though, given that it's specifically designed as a square to go here.
Right, but any qualification testings that you do requiring this structure has to be on a stand of that to fit this confirmation.
Right.
So unless this is going to be their mode going forward for validating the ship or proofing the ship, then I could see that being the case, but this seems more like it's yet another structural test fixture for validating different construction techniques and revisions.
Cool.
Cool.
And the rest of the questions that we have are just general speculation questions, so I'll go ahead and save those for later.
Alrighty, well, in that case, I will go ahead and move us over to Sanchez, where we definitely have some interesting updates this week. Finally able to piece certain things together that have been a bit of a mystery for a while. So I got a few renders over here that we can show once we get to that point. But yeah, starting off at the ground fab building, I don't think there's anything new over here. Still
Yeah, I
have.
hadn't.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed anything over in that area. We didn't spend much time looking there, but I didn't notice anything jumping out at us.
They move
Yeah.
stuff.
Still working on this booster transport stand. The third ship stand is still being worked. Technically, all the ship stands are still being worked on.
And actually, to kind of amend that, that is actually the final ship stand or booster stand to be done. That's actually BTR1. It's been after they took 17 off of it, they've swapped it. This is the last one to be swapped from version 2 to version 3.
Oh yeah, I forgot they just pulled that off of there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm still working on these other stands. I don't know if we really talked about this one the other week, but this is an interesting one. This is probably one of the more interesting Star Factory workstations that we've seen, in my opinion. And again, I'm not sure if this was actually talked about previously or not, but to me, that stand seems to be what? It looks very similar, basically, and the picture from last week would actually be better to show this. But in my opinion, it looks like that stand is made for this aft section of the transfer tube, basically the manifold section of it, to be placed on top of that stand, and then basically all of the pipes can be laid out on top of that, and then essentially lifted into the aft section afterward. So in my opinion, this kind of looks like it reduces a huge nightmare. I can only imagine. I don't even know how that works. Like, you have to climb up in and down and into that aft section in order to work in there every single time. So I imagine it's probably a bit of a pain to install all of that stuff into an aft section. So I think this is probably allowing them to do like 90% of that plumbing in basically an open space, and then do the final integration with probably less people inside of the aft section. I can only imagine what it's like having 20 people working in there at the same time, versus being able to access it from all sides like this without having to climb in and out of that aft section.
Zach, I think you and I are some of the few people who prescribe to this theory. Just
Really?
from how, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you guys started talking about it, definitely something that I definitely got on board with. It was when we first saw it, it was very like, okay, well, what could it be? But I could see a lot of it. I mean, the ability to get like underneath a lot of that section for a lot of those welding, to get a lot of those pipes into the bottom of the
Yep.
landing tank and all that, it totally makes sense to kind of make that as a pre-assembly and then drop it into onto the actual puck and the rest of the aft section after it's mostly assembled.
Yeah, I mean, more than any other time. I mean, like, hold on, let's just look at this really quick. Where booster 17. I used to think that the booster aft sections were crazy with this generation, but like that's basically an apartment complex compared to what it looks like now as far as accessibility and just general being able to move around in there. So I think that when they got to this design, they were like, okay, this is an absolute nightmare. Trying to install all of this stuff, having to get up underneath things, like that's just crazy. So I imagine that was one of the big things when they designed that, or when they constructed probably 18, 19, possibly 20, and they were like, all right, well, we can't be doing it this way anymore. It absolutely has to be broken into another step. And in all reality, it's kind of designed from the very beginning for that specific extra step to happen, because with the way that this kind of like cradle right here, like this basically is kind of part of what's holding the suspending this up into the air. So like in my opinion, this entire thing looks like it's been designed to be dropped in all at once. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if there's end up outfitting it with additional components once it's actually in the Star Factory. And I think that was BJ that I was talking to this about, the fact that they never fully outfit them outside, so we don't never get to see what they look like for the most part when they're finished. But and there's a caveat to this, wouldn't be surprised if they like put like simulated valve positions on here, so that all of the plumbing can basically be joined up to those valves and make sure that it's perfectly aligned exactly where it's supposed to be, so that there's never an issue with something being out of tolerance once it's actually dropped in. However, I think that plumbing connects to those valves. They're welded connections instead of flanged connections. So what I'm describing may not necessarily work if those are flange or if those are welded connections.
I think there's bellows that they're welding too, so that everything has a little bit of flux and movement.
Right. You could still have like alignment
Oh, yeah.
jigs on here. It could just be like almost like I'm imagining something similar to the little pins on the booster hold downs, like something that can flip out, and then the pipes, you just basically slide the pipe into that connection piece, and then it slides back out once everything's ready to go, kind of locks it down basically.
Yeah, alignment fixtures.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that this is the whole point of the phase that they're in right now, is to turn things into assembly line um, construction, basically, which is they've never truly reached that point. They've gotten close multiple times, but every time they get close, they you know have to retool everything again for all the massive changes that they keep making to these vehicles. So hopefully these fixtures will actually last for a while, because they've produced what is this, like the third one of these that we've seen?
Well, if you think
That-
about it, the complexity of the aft, they would have to have multiple aft sections being worked on at once.
Yeah, and I think this is still the first one. I don't think that pile of ring sections out to the right and more of the spokes in other areas. They have not moved on to a second, but there's definitely parts for 2 or 3 of these. And and like Alex just said, with the complexity of that section, it would make a lot of sense to have a number of these jigs so that they can have multiple of them in different stages as they're going through the line.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's pipelining and optimization. Could go on a hour-long tangent.
So I hate to jump in with a question, but are you expecting that this white piece is kind of going to be the floor, or are pieces going to kind of come down through it?
Well, so if you look at, I mean, this big hole is basically what the bottom of the transfer tube sits inside of, and the pipes that connect to the outer 20, they naturally do this little.
The only reason I ask is because there's 12 sections in that white jig, but only 20 pipes. So like if there was 10 sections, that would 100% make sense to me, but I guess I'm just having a little issue with there being too many sections. It just doesn't line up straight.
It's like counting floor joists. With sometimes our obsession with spokes and and fixtures.
Well, and the fact that it doesn't have 20 or a 10 is also, there might actually be some indexing of those spokes that make it so that with the 12 that are on there, that none of those spokes actually line up with any of the actual 20 pipes, so that the pipes are always in between them. It's probably unlikely that that's true that everyone would miss it, but it's probably more about that. I mean, this is not actually part of the article, so it's just a factory fixture to assemble on.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. I was looking at these tables. It looks like something else about to be assembled on here, but I'm not really sure what to make of this.
Yeah, they've been sitting there for a couple weeks. Those mystery little L-shaped pieces that now have some different parts in other locations were kind of sitting there for a little while, but I don't think
Yeah.
there's nothing really showing that they're going to build anything. Its arrangement definitely suggests that something's being built on it soon, but they haven't done anything yet.
I don't like those L brackets, if I'm honest, BJ.
Yeah, I think they've got the same little flaps on them that all of the access platforms have. So I'm wondering if they're. It almost makes me think that they're going to be attached to to the Chine elevators or something similar to that to
Right.
work on certain parts of boosters or ships, but where or what is yet to be determined.
Yeah, it's like where those other Z struts are.
Yeah, and Zach, over by 17's aft is where we're talking about. This over in that scrapyard, crane yard area is is the parts that we're talking about. If you wanted to show, yeah, in that pile to the left there, so it's actually closer to the forward section, and just off of this particular picture, you can see the pieces, but not the ones that have added parts to it.
So I can't see it in this image. You mean?
No, you need an image that looks just a little bit farther to the left.
You can see part of that.
Too far?
Yeah,
that one
does
has it
sort
right
of-
at the bottom. Yeah, right by your cursor.
Yeah, those do sort of look like for the Chines.
Yeah,
fold
but
down.
you can see there the L shape. You can see some of the L shaped ones off to the right, but then they're right by your cursor. There's one sitting there, but they've got those little fold down platform accesses. But where they actually attach, and then there's even further one up to the left that actually has a couple of like handrail sections attached to it. The one to the left there, you can see the two handrails.
Yeah.
So that L shape is all the perfect 90 kind of alcove in the middle of that makes me think that it's going to attach this around something, and then it's got the curve. So, but I can't for the life of me picture where in any of the mega bays that would actually connect, where it would then, when that flipped down, it would actually be right up against the edge of a vehicle.
I think you might have hit it with the Chines or.
Yeah, I mean
or
the
even-
sizing is about right for those towers that the elevators are on. Be curious if they abandon the actual elevator and go to just having like a massive number of levels on that instead of actually having a movable elevator.
Yeah. Well, the volume, the sheer number of these, and then there's that, and it jumping over there. They're building another one of those towers that by the paint tent.
While we're here, since we
Oh, yeah.
kind of collided with it, do have a lot of new components shown up this week for, I guess, at least seems to be a transport structure, a horizontal transport structure for boosters. Not sure if it's also related to a breakover, but we can pull these up here. So this is from Chrome Kiwi. And hold on, let me go back really quick. So yeah, we can see a few different components. We can see this with it says forward and aft. Same on this one, forward and aft. And then there's a few other components which,
Yeah, they're just off the
Not
bottom of
visible
they're just towards the bottom a little bit. Yeah, those two with the stencils on it we've been seeing for a few weeks, but the stenciling this week is kind of, and then some other parts have kind of given some clarity on what those things were, because they've been there for a while. But yeah, over by Shadow to the right there, there's those two turntables, the green elements in Chrome Kiwi's diagram.
yeah, I think these pretty much gave it away immediately, because these look like the huge version of what you see on a lot of semis. And yeah, so basically, this is basically what we have here with those components. So this is the one that I was hoping was going to be Jaws for Mechazilla, but definitely looks like it is to hold the aft section of the booster. And this is definitely addressing one of the things that I was talking about several weeks ago, as far as it not being possible to transport boosters on Highway 4. And the reason I said that is because I was kind of assuming a more rigid transport that needs the entire length of the booster, versus having the ability to turn like this, specifically getting on the causeway to go to or not the causeway, the port access road, making big turns like that with this. You need basically the ability to turn off of one road with your front axis and then remain on the other road with the rear axis, essentially, if that makes sense.
Articulate it.
Yeah, exactly. And this is something that you see all the time with, I mean, really anything. I think does Falcon 9 transports?
No, they have the
No.
Falcon 9's on has a solid spine underneath it on the transporters.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the last time we actually saw one like this. Was probably one of the water tanks for Pad 1.
Yeah. Where they had it
The
suspended.
last time we saw one come in like this, yeah. So that's fun. The question, I guess, is whether or not this is also a breakover, which I don't. I mean, I imagine it would have to be.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, so kind of looking at some of the things, and we talked about it last night in the show and tell, I'm thinking that this magenta piece is actually the forward section of the breakover. More to do with the fact that I think that other frame that's next to the transport stands that they started building a couple of weeks ago looks more like an aft to me because it doesn't have the ability to wrap around. I know we discussed that potentially that instead of lifting from the hot stage truss, that they would actually lift from the grid fin sockets because it likely doesn't have grid fins during transport. That this load,
Right.
that half C, or well, the half circle would make more sense that they could connect
Hold on,
that
which
to
one are
the
you
grid
talking
fins. Up there by the booster transport stand to the
This?
left of it. Yeah, that. I'm kind of thinking that that's actually the aft point, and that those 2 points would be where that goes, and then you could kind of then it could be at the end of the article, whereas that other piece could potentially be midway through the vehicle. It doesn't have to be at the aft. Now, it could still be the aft. I'm not saying it's not. But if these are the only two pieces, that looks more like an aft. And then that you could put the hinge points on the top of those 2 feet to be the bottom breakover. And then you could attach the crane to the other part, and it would hang probably down off of some kind of cable structures when it's vertical to those to the 4 clevis points. And then as it rotates, that would allow it to rotate and be in the middle of the vehicle. I have a hard time. I'm still not quite seeing exactly how it would work, but that makes more sense to me from what we're seeing.
Well,
I could definitely see that.
there's probably going to be
Looking for-
there's going to probably be a part that's connected to the vehicle that'll stay with the vehicle, because I don't think I think they'll transfer it from this on the barges, and both locations will have a set of these rather than this elaborate for every section they move. Seems kind of wasteful to me.
Right.
But,
like, how many of these are they going to need?
well, if they have one at each location and whatever sort of interface between this and the bottom of the vehicles, so that when they get to the barge, they can snap it into that, then this can leave. So, and yeah, I'm with BJ. I don't think we have enough bits assembled yet to.
Yeah.
Yeah, enough new pieces have arrived for us to start at least piecing together and maybe have a theory that maybe 50-50 on whether it's 100% accurate. But I'm actually thinking lately, I haven't been able to research and find an actual point, but I think there's 2 semi-trailers over in that open spot in the middle of Sanchez that I think actually have the forward and aft roller assemblies that would go under them instead of using the modular trailers. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, those 2 semi-trailers by that gooseneck right by your cursor. Those parts in my research last night look like they are a disassembled heavy lift trailer assembly.
Yeah.
With the backbone. The backbone structures are on the upper trailer, and then the 2 sets of axles are on the lower trailer.
And yeah, those space frame lattice dresses are underneath the black ones are interesting as well.
Are these?
Yeah, and
would this go in the middle, or do you think these are front and back?
That
I'm
could
not
be
sure.
for
Yeah, I mean,
one.
I don't know if there's enough axles for it to be an entire forward and an aft dolly, but I was I was hoping that name on that one, that partial name, the ATEC on there, I was hoping I could get a Google search off of that, but I can't find a company with the,
Nothing.
but it does, but those parts do look like a disassembled heavy lift trailer.
Yeah,
Do you have an example of one that I can show?
I can probably find one here in a second.
I think Mammut probably has a bazillion. But yeah. And there's also some other parts down in the crane yard as well.
Still no movement on this one yet, huh?
They painted it. But yeah, now it finally looks together.
I still wonder if this is going to go to Massey's, but cool.
We'll end up by ibuprofen. There.
Okay, yeah, I definitely see what you're referring to here. So this is what they have here is only one part of the entire. There's what, 3 or 4 parts to this? 1, 2.
Yeah, it's not
3,
exactly. Yeah,
4.
it wouldn't be exactly, but yeah, that's kind of a similar part there. There's tons of different configurations on how these types of things, but that would be a really good example in terms of like the form and function, not necessarily the exact configuration.
Right, that makes sense. Interesting. Can't wait to see that.
Well, especially the distance they have to move once they get to Florida as well.
Yeah, I'm excited for that phase. Sending things down to Florida, it's going to be interesting seeing all that stuff moving back and forth. That's for sure. Do we have anything else in Sanchez as well? I feel like I'm missing something here. We already talked about this, but I guess we could kind of go back on this. So they are still outfitting this. I thought they were closer to being done with it, but I guess maybe there's probably panels that go over the top of these potentially.
Yeah, there's extra plates that were added underneath all of where the clamp mounts are to kind of create a lip to allow the additional floor. It does seem like it's going to be a solid deck on that, whether these fillers are solid plate or like a catwalk grating or something, who knows, but
They haven't put all the articulations for the actuators yet. There's that secondary platform.
Sorry, I'm just looking at this. I'm wondering, could something like this tip over? Like, could this possibly be for transporting the ship?
I think next to the yoke shape, it looks like some of those ship rings, transport rings might.
yeah, I'd be curious. It would be an interesting theory if like those attachment points were to like then instead of like clamping because to do that breakover to instead of like clamping it just to the aft of it with the clamps to also be able to like attach it to the actual aft puck in the engine mounts. It's an interesting concept to give it just a little bit more rigidity because it'll be interesting with the tiles and all that stuff. It will be really interesting to see how different that breakover structure would end up having to be to keep from damaging tiles and all that stuff. The booster's a little bit easier because you don't have that exterior fragile element to it.
But
I mean, all you would need is like some sort of clevis bracket on the side here for this to be pull up on something, put in the pins, and then allow it to tip the whole thing over onto its side. Because you're obviously going to have a different type of transport for the ship and booster, and currently it possibly appears like we're looking at the booster one here, maybe.
Yeah, I could see it.
Surely they're doing both
Like
of
I
them
was just
at the
saying,
same time, right?
like if it did a transfer off of the actual structure onto the barge, which would make most sense because otherwise you'd have to have a lot of these setups. But it would be interesting. It would be where those like the turntable setups could be universal between booster and ship, and then it's just that actual breakover structures that attach to the forward and aft carts would be the only thing that would really have to be different.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's almost. I'm wondering, BJ, is if those aren't front and back, sort of pivot, or if they're both one's for the ship, one's for the booster.
Good, that could be possible too.
Cool. Anything else in Sanchez?
I don't think so. I mean,
Right.
other than the grid,
Matt,
that
did we have any
gridfin, yeah,
questions?
that gridfin test cage got fully painted, but so it looks like it might be ready for whatever testing may happen on it there by your cursor to the left.
Are you talking about this one?
Yeah, that was half white, half black last week. It finished up. I'm wondering if now that it's fully painted, it's ready for whatever purpose it serves.
So we're sure that this is for gridfin testing then?
I'd say we're high likelihood given the attachment points in the back, but maybe even a gridfin simulator test, or maybe more about the motor assembly and not actually. I'm not sure if with where like some of the attachment points are for test rams, almost feels like it might get a simulator, not the actual gridfin itself. But
Interesting. Wonder where that would end up going.
yeah, it's hard to tell. But they're the two mounts that there's the smaller mount on the far left side, and then there's that open ring that's kind of in the middle structure that definitely looks very much like a gridfin socket.
Do you think this could be added onto the Super Crusher?
Maybe if it's in the right spot that it could fit in one of the voids between legs. But everything I'm seeing on it kind of looks like that it would take the place of that it's like a simulator of the socket itself to like test the motor structures or something. But I think anything's possible at this point.
So we'll have to wait and see. Matt, did we have any questions from Sanchez?
We've got a couple questions. We just got one more donation in, $5 super chat from Sharpie saying, excellent work. Kudos to the RGV team. Now the first question here is from Phillips Prosty. He asks, what do you think they're going to do about the static firing, or for static firing the ships at KSC? Will they do this at Starbase before they transfer over, or do you think they'll use some sort of adapter for the ships?
I think they don't have a choice but to do static fires before they send it down there, because they don't have, as far as we've seen, they haven't started constructing any test stand infrastructure for ships down there. So they seem to be able to do static fires for boosters down there on the launch mount, obviously. But with the ships, they don't necessarily have anything unless they plan to do a star stool type thing on the launch mount down there for ship static fire testing. But I doubt that's the case, and I hope it's not.
The EIS would say otherwise, Zach.
Yeah, that's where I was going to say the same thing. As much as I think there's some people who don't want to see an adapter for the launch mount, I have a feeling that ships won't. I don't think they'll static fire before transport.
Not to mention,
Wait, sorry, what does the EIS say?
They're static firing on the mounts. They have sound data for both boosters and ships.
To do both of them on the launch mount?
Yeah, and also with the QDs splayed the ways they are, they could put a temporary third tower between the LOX and methane ship booster QDs for the ship stand-in.
Whatever, dude. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the only other option I could see, and obviously it goes to your comment about not seeing anything, is if there was if the catch towers are close enough that the EIS data that there would be no marginal difference between there if like a catch tower would maybe have a dedicated ship stand on it for testing, but that's even more speculative than putting it on the launch mount or not doing it at all.
Or having a higher crab stand and just going back to the roots and just put it right next to the tower and just blast it.
Wow. Alrighty.
Yeah. Look, I'll bring to complete utter crazy, and you know that.
That's definitely true. Wait, were we actually answering a question there?
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, we've only got one more other than that, and Des Nichols is asking, do we know where the L-shaped pieces on the circle of stands went?
Yeah, that's what we were just talking. Actually, in the top right corner, it's what we were discussing. These elements earlier, the ones with the little flip downs and the.
Oh, okay, it's the white ones. Gotcha.
Those are what he was asking about. Yep.
Gotcha.
The only other thing in that picture on the upper center are some of the pieces far top of the frame that were over by the staging area.
Yeah, sorry, I was just looking at these. I was like, what is going on here?
Oh, the Airbnb or sea level ship for their engines installs.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Those are the fillers for when they're not doing engine install. Those go in the middle of the ship lift stands to fill the sea level void in the middle of the elevated platforms. That was a revelation in the last week or so.
Gotcha.
Alex is talking about the black frames at the top of the frame that were over by the GSE and by the grid fin simulators. That those are being over here. They definitely look like those are those are the upper levels for the for that crab stand probably.
Yeah.
Wait, where? Where are you referring to?
Right there.
Yep. All of that stuff. Yeah. There's 3 of them that have cutout. They're elevated with little cutouts as if they're almost simulating that, like the raised center section of the ship the other cryo stand.
Are those squares, they're little cages they put around actuators.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Took me forever to find that they moved over here. I noticed that they were moved, and it wasn't until in the middle of show and tell that I realized that they were over here.
Oh.
Ah, okay, I see it now.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well played.
Cool.
Yeah, that's all the questions we have for this area.
Perfect. Then I'll move us over to the build site. This is where BJ lives when he's not at work.
And while I'm at work, because I work at home, and
while he's at
work. Rover 1 is
trying to help you out.
Yeah, helping me out. Rover 1 is almost always on my right-hand screen while I'm working. So, but yeah,
well, take it over, BJ.
Yeah, I mean, it's after a long period of waiting for level 3 to be done. Level 4 is rapidly going on. I mean, last week, they didn't have any steel on the 4th level, and as of right now, they're actually placing those the last of the 6 that weren't done during the flyover there on the Megabase side, but essentially that entire center spine. I think all the columns are in there. There might be one still in there that still hasn't been lifted this morning and this afternoon, but they've got most of the partitions completely finished here in the middle section, and just like we saw at Roberts Road in the flyovers in January. Was that January when Event Dudes flew? Whatever it was, but we saw that those partitions are not going as high as the main walls there, and it's replicating here. One thing we're able to notice here, because we could see the steel close up when it was arriving, that there are actually bolt holes in the top of all of those partition columns. I'm undecided. Right now I'm thinking it's just for handrail mounts to be attached to them. But maybe there's something that further goes up, but there's nothing to attach it to the actual center wall up higher. So whether those bolt holes mean anything or not, I guess is pure speculation.
Yeah, but
But
this is so basically these are the full height of the partition walls basically. So once you reach this point in the building, you'll be able to see all the way across to all the other vehicles in there. Basically, wave at your friends all the way over there. Um,
yeah, it seems
that's
like it.
interesting.
I will be curious to see if and it'll be harder to tell, but I could almost see where the work cell outfitting that's within those partitions. I could see it being a little bit taller because when Ship 39 moved across, we could see roughly the tip of the nose cone on the cryo stand or on the static fire stand. From the vantage of Rocket Ranch Cam, obviously far away and all that stuff, it was roughly at the same height. So I could see it maybe needing to be a little bit bigger for the actual outfitting within it, but we'll have to wait and see how much higher. But I don't think there's a whole lot between this level and a booster forward section that would really need a lot of access to need like that complete, thorough access.
Yeah. Do you think that the walls ending in this location versus going all the way up to the roof, does that explain to you this expected temporary support?
I'm not sure there's really any correlation there. Um, it seems to me that it's just that point that there's above that level, there's not a huge necessity to continue having that full access, and that just having what they need attached to the walls is sufficient. And for all I know, and for all we know, the outfitting cell could even go full height where we don't actually see across there, and it's just that the structural elements there in the middle don't need to go any farther. I mean,
You know what's crazy though? Like this is like the roof of this is almost even more. It reminds me of like a NFL stadium type truss structure on across the roof. Like I mean, they obviously did trusses on all of the other ones, but it's a little bit different here. I guess it's because it's just so wide, the area that is being unsupported in the center. You know what I mean? Like it's that the entire roof structure is basically a figure eight as far as where it's actually transferring the load into the rest of the structure. It's basically unsupported in the middle, right? So that's a very large suspended roof essentially.
Well, I
In the
think from
aircraft
the steel we're hanging, I think the main the roof trusses are going to go left to right. They're going to go east west, so they'll hit the outside the Star Factory outside wall and the garage outside wall, and then they'll probably both sets of columns down the middle wall. I think those are going to be the 4 attachment points for the roof, with it sloping towards the parking garage, because of the fact that we saw along that wall is the only place where we saw what looked to be large diameter drains for the roof drains to go off that direction.
So
But
you're
we're
thinking the
also
roof is going to be a heavy slope or like the Mega Bay 1 type slope?
it'll probably be a very shallow slope, but I think it will have a slope towards the parking garage, similar to like Mega Bay 2 and 1 and 2, where it's a very small amount of slope, just enough for rain to
Right.
run off.
Can you
But
imagine the amount of water on that roof during like a big, I mean, it's nothing compared to the Star Factory, but it kind of is at the same time, just because it's so much taller. And then, I mean, you have a huge column of water basically rushing down through those drains.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because I'm really looking forward to once they get done with 4 and we get into what I've started calling levels 5 and 6, because there's kind of what we're seeing at Roberts Road from the limited views we've seen so far. Those junction points connect at different heights, and and what I'm pretty sure I've seen in a couple of the ground images from people who have posted on X, that the inner row on the factory and garage sides, we've seen the main bridge crane arms are connected to some of them, and those are the ones that on the top of the column have a plate with a brace and gussets for braces, but not for a column extension. Whereas some of the other arms we're seeing there have the column extensions for the bridge cranes, which are more likely for the center wall. And
Wait,
then there's
hold on.
some.
You're seeing bridge crane related things now?
Yes, we're
Where?
seeing both. The space engineer posted last week on X. We're not seeing it here at the
Oh, okay.
Roberts Road site. There's two different people who have posted photos from Roberts Road tours showing both the stacking cell crane arms that are on the level 5 columns. We've actually seen those columns at the storage lot on Highway 4. I actually saw them in our flyovers today, or yesterday, I should say. And we've seen them in the flyovers. So the tower, the stacking cells will have cranes at the top of the 5th level. This lot right here, actually, if you go to the bottom left corner, that's the first stack of full-size columns. So the third set of columns there, right there. If you zoom in, the 4 columns against the property line, those are level 5 columns that go on what we're calling the column O, and in the matrix of the grid. So it's the Star Factory side interior main columns. That's the columns for there. But on the left side, you can see on the 4th one there on the left side, you can see the arm. You can see 2 of the arms here, the little arms just below your cursor. Not the two. The columns that are closer to the erosion control, not the 2 on the inside. Those are not what I'm talking about. Yeah, that right there is a crane arm support for the stacking cells. And then you can see, if you look at the other one, you can see the rusty spot.
Like a jib crane or not? Sorry,
bridge crane.
A pedestal.
No, that is a bridge crane. That is the arm for a main rail for a bridge crane.
Yeah. So like there's 2 levels, east-west and north-south cranes, right, BJ?
Yeah, so just like months ago when I had done that one diagram, essentially the stacking cells would have one lighter weight crane that can traverse just its own stacking cell underneath the main transfer aisle cranes. And that's what these ones are. And we haven't really seen, in this lot, we actually did see too that there's one of the main deviations I'm seeing in the assemblies of level 4 is that the stacking cells didn't continue. I'm trying to remember where in this pile they are. I was showing somebody else them at one point, but at Roberts Road, they put in some half columns along the stacking cells only to support.
Wait, can we maybe show some of the Roberts Road stuff? That might help.
I mean, it's an X post. They're both X posts, so I mean, I don't see why we couldn't show it. Other than I know the stacking cell one is from the Space Engineer, posted about a week ago. I'd have to find the posts.
I'll find it.
And then I'm trying to remember who posted it wasn't Cygnus Tom that would, I forget what his actual name is. I think that's his X handle. He wasn't the one he posts a lot of ground images from that hit Roberts Road, but he wasn't the one I don't think that I saw that actually showed the main bridge crane ones secondary. But yeah, so this is a good one. Yeah, so if you were to zoom in on there, those columns that are sticking up on the left-hand side are the ones that we were just looking at. Kind of the middle one, like 2 sections over, you'll see it's a little bit clearer. But these are all the 4th column. These are 4th level columns, and just to the left of your mount of your cursor there, you can see that bridge crane mount just down, and then actually below that. And then there's that darker spot is the gusset, is also an attachment point for the crane rail. So you've got the arm just below that rusty spot on all of those ones. That's where the stacking cell cranes will be.
So they run this direction?
No, those ones run perpendicular to there. So that'll run out into
because the rail's
bay.
here. So wait, hold on. That's confusing.
Yeah. So
the beam goes on top of this?
Yes, that's where the beam continues, and then it'll go out the partition from that point. But this is where I was talking about where we have a stagger here, and where the connections. So on those ones that are sticking higher, those are full height, 60-foot, two floor level columns. And then the middle columns that are in the middle that are essentially over the doors, just to the in between, are actually half columns, and you can actually see where the connection point is down a level.
Talking about these?
No, I was talking still over on the far side, but
These
those
ones?
are half. But yeah, so if you see in here, you have all those pairs. Those are the intersections where the partition walls are.
Yeah.
Over the doorways, farther to the right, you can see down lower, you right there at your cursor. Well, it was there. You're to the left of your cursor right now, but you see there's those dark little spots at the top of each column. Those are the connection points that we're lifting it. Those ones up there are full height columns. There's a half column in the middle of it, right there.
Right here.
Yeah, so this is where level 5 and 6 are staggering. So level 6 columns are going to have some that start at the top of a full height column and some that start at the top of a half height column, which is where it's going to be really confusing. If you're not already confused by my descriptions, you're really going to be confused. But what we're seeing in the columns that have arms for the main aisle cranes, some of them are super short and some of them are taller, and that's where they go on top of these particular columns. And then those arms are then parallel with the main walls.
Interesting.
And that's where we have seen in your server. I probably in the KSC thread in your server I probably even linked it. There was somebody who posted more recently than these particular images that you can actually see those extension columns that have the main bridge crane arms as well.
This is actually really cool. This view right here, seeing where these walls end.
Yeah, and that's where in that middle spine, like you were showing there, that fifth level is only half height columns there, so they're only one floor, 30-foot columns. And then I think all of these. Yep. Yeah, so and that's why we're only seeing one floor higher than the fourth level that's at the perimeter. And then I'm pretty sure that lines up with where we're seeing in the far corner in some of the other images where there is a air quotes full height column that goes on top of the fifth level half columns that is not truly a full height.
Is this the one you want, or like this one?
Well, we'd have to find the more recent photos that aren't the Space Engineers to show the new stuff, because those particular pieces weren't installed yet during this particular set of images.
This building is crazy when you look at it from these angles. It's just insane how large it is. What is this? Have we figured out what it compares to the VAB? I know somebody mentioned it at one point.
Yeah, I forget.
It's gotta be large. The VAB is just taller, right?
VAB is bigger by volume, and I'm trying to remember if the foot. It's like 100 feet taller.
I thought VAB encompasses this.
Yeah, I think the footprint is slight. I don't think Gigabay is bigger in footprint either. I think it's actually smaller in footprint and in height, and that's why the volume's different. But it's still a massive building. Okay, it was a Facebook.
How many
Facebook
workstations does the VAB have?
Well, it's got the 4 cells, but I know there's additional like sub cells in areas. So I'm not even sure what the official like working area in terms of cell count is.
Yeah, I would love to be on the inside of that building one day. Yeah, I guess elsewhere is also related. They've started, and I don't know, BJ, was this last week? This kind of looks fresh. The concrete down here.
Yeah, they finished the second floor was complete during last week's flyover. There are some images that look from another angle that look at that you can see that the third floor, essentially the north half of the third floor, was poured earlier this week. I forget what day it was, but we saw the concrete trucks coming in. I never saw a report of a pumper coming in. So I don't know if it just got if it was missed or whatnot, but we did see, if you look at it, there's a couple of the side views looking from over the parking garage that you can see in from that western side of it. Yeah, that
The
one.
side or the
It's still the center spine. Yeah, you can see it here if you zoom in. You can see that kind of from the center line of the building on the right-hand side of the level. So just your cursor is on the second level, but you can see that it's only rebar on the highway side of that level,
yeah.
and that it's concrete on the left-hand side. It's really hard to tell. You can tell that it's the third floor
Concrete.
because well, yeah, you
Yeah.
can see that. Yeah, you can see that it's concrete, and you can tell that it's the third floor because it doesn't have the intermediate levels above it in the partition.
And then they're also painting all of the lower level currently. It looks like they're I mean, they have been doing this for several weeks now, but they definitely stepped up quite dramatically, I would say, over the last week, right?
Yeah, in the last couple of weeks, they've been doing a lot of. It looks like they've been doing a lot of application by roller of an initial primer and some of the white paint, but now they've got all the curtains up and seem to be coming back through and doing an additional pass with spray to finish to do that last coat. It seems like.
So once this is done, we'll probably see them for the cladding
Yeah,
show up
BZI.
with
Yeah, BZI should be coming in this month. I would imagine the crane permits were pushed from January to March from BZI, so that LR 1300 should be arriving anytime now. I mean,
oh, so
I don't think.
they'll have another crane out here just for that.
Yeah, at Roberts Road, they're using an LR 1300, and there's been permits pulled by the same company that's doing BZI is doing the cladding at both sites, and they have a permit for here, so it doesn't appear they're going to be doing any of the cladding work with the tower cranes.
So they'll be just rolling around, doing circles around the building until it's
Yep.
finished.
Yeah,
Fun.
so got a little bit more to go. I know they've got. It looks like the cladding panels look like they're maybe about 40 foot tall, or maybe even just the first level. I know when they got done with the second row of cladding, they're above the second floor or above the third floor. They're above the top of the first column. So it seems like maybe that first level is a little higher, and then the subsequent layers might all be that same floor height, 30-ish feet, going the rest of the way up, just so that seam isn't actually at the columns or at the beams itself.
So
You seen
are they
anything new
using
in the
curtain
doorways?
walls, or is PJ, are they using curtain walls, or are they just stick buildings cladding?
It looks like it's curtain walls. They're pre-assembled. We can actually see in the satellite images that are in our Patreon lounge. You can see the pre-assembled ones, and they have these big trailers where, kind of like how glass haulers bring in glass, they haul like 4 panels at a time on this trailer, and then the crane lifts them up as an assembly.
Okay, so that should go up pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean they're all. I think at this point they've done these first 2 levels on three sides already at Roberts Road.
Do these bolt on to the columns?
I'm pretty sure they are. I mean,
These bolt
I've seen. I mean, I think they've added some additional bolt holes. There are some bolt patterns in the columns already. We've seen in the ground images, but they're not nearly this frequent. So I'll be curious to see when they come in how much more structure and actually
they have
those
to do,
bigger
yeah.
those bigger plates that are at the top of the platform look like they're at the same height as the bolts we're seeing. And then obviously you were showing those smaller, lighter gray attachment points that might be some interim ones that go in there, but just below your cursor, those dark plates appear to be the main attachment points.
Oh yeah, I see it now.
Yeah, 'cause they probably just hang off brackets and are bolted into the brackets. The panels move.
Yeah,
from
and this image
structure.
was interesting because I didn't expect the panels to hang off and be so far offset to the beam. I expected them to be closer, but you can kind of see that frame structure on the right hand side that it actually sits off of the columns a fair bit.
Hey, Zach, hate to jump in here, but Mauricio is at Starbase right now. Check Patreon Lounge for a front view of the Star Factory right now.
Oh, cool. Let's see.
Or not, Gigabay, sorry.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can only imagine standing in front of this thing.
Ken,
Actually, that I was trying to zoom in on that far enough to see. There was one of the things we saw yesterday that one of the tower cranes actually lifted an entire assembly, one of the scaffold stair assemblies, and relocated it. And I was trying to see if it was. I think they moved it
You
out of
mean
this.
one of these?
Yeah, I think
They lifted
it
the
looked
entire
like
thing at
it.
once.
Yeah, the entire thing, and they lifted it up over the thing. It almost looked like they put it in one of the elevator shafts, but I'm not seeing it in this picture, so I'm not sure where they moved it to and from. It didn't go across the center line because it was lifted by the front right corner. The front right crane lifted it. It was previously in the north end of what some of us call work cell 12. It's the front left of the right aisle. I think they might have just moved it to a different corner of that particular cell. You can actually see it right there in that first cell on the left of the right aisle, down a little bit farther. Down a little bit. Yeah, that right there, that whole assembly was lifted and moved. And actually, it's connected to the crane during the flyover. But I can't tell. I couldn't quite make out where they moved it to. If they just moved it to I think they might have moved it to the opposite corner of that work cell. But they moved it. They
That's one
lifted
way
it
to do
all.
it.
They lifted it all
they
the way
should,
up. They lifted it up clear of all the steel, so I almost thought they might have put it into one of the elevator shafts to get it out of the actual cell. But that ground photo you just showed from Mauricio should have shown it in there if that was the case.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I guess all those
because,
cross braces, the cross braces in there is probably why they had to lift it up and back down instead of just like moving it across.
I bet in Mega Bay 2, they're like, oh, we should start doing that. Instead of having to rebuild all of this scaffolding around the ship every single time.
Yeah, just put it in the corner, take the bridge crane and move it over where
lift
it
the
needs
whole
to be.
thing at one time.
Or better yet, just put it on wheels and hope that there's a start and park it outside.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you could theoretically put that whole assembly on wheels. Cool. So anything else at the build site? Obviously, we haven't looked at the backside yet. I don't think there was anything else out here other than the booster cryo stand.
Yeah,
on
the only
front
thing
side.
in that picture of interest to people is that there an RVAC transport case is there by the star that star stand or the star load spreader. Man, words are not coming out well. Just on the other side of on the other side of the road in that storage location. That crate right there is an RVAC crate. Yep, right there under your cursor.
This?
Yep, that arrived a couple days ago. Speculation is it has a Raptor 3 RVAC in it, hopefully.
Nice. Weird that it's just sitting outside.
Mm-hmm. And for all I mean, it arrived a few days ago, so whether it has an engine in it still, I mean, they could have taken it over and actually offloaded the engine into the Raptor's nest already, and it's just empty out there. It's hard to tell since we don't have ground views back there.
Yeah, I think this kind of finishes us up at the build site. Can't really see much into the buildings this week.
Yep, closed doors were not friendly to us.
Right. And I don't think that there's not really anything at the Star Factory either from what I was looking at.
No, now that everything's closed in and there aren't any flaps outside or anything like that to look at, really.
Yeah. With the village, not much there either. I think we can probably save that for the Tuesday show. So let's go ahead and go to the launch site. Let's see if we have any questions and donations that we should handle before we do that.
No donations, but we do have two quick questions. Nicholas Dornan is asking, he says, is it possible that the bridge cranes of the stacking bays span from one bay to the other, so essentially the transfer bay?
Nope. The structure of the other one of the cells across the way, the partition walls do not have any structure to take those bridge crane rails across, and they would probably be too short to let full vehicle to allow full vehicles to be on the main cranes down the center aisle.
So hold on. So you're saying that each cell, or is it each pair of cells, will have their own?
No, only the stacking cells will. The question was asking whether the question was asking whether those stacking cranes would be able to take a vehicle from the turntable across the aisle to the cell across the way from it. Which the answer is no.
Oh.
The main cranes will do any transfer from one cell to another. Those cranes will be dedicated only for stacking, and at least in the workflow that I have on it, that each of the 6 stacking cells has one, and it's only for stacking vehicles.
Yeah.
So there'll be six cranes here. How many are you thinking for each?
I think there'll be 2.
Half of the building.
I think each aisle will probably have 2 bridge cranes, but there'll be 2 essentially. There'll be essentially 2 main trolleys on there. So essentially, you're not limited to one on there, because it'll probably be somewhat related to. I mean, breakover doesn't necessarily require to if they were to do the breakovers in the building, because they could set the bottom half on its rotating assembly without having a crane on the back end. Like, you don't have to do it like an SLS core stage where you have to have a crane on both the forward and aft of that tank as they're riding it. But I still think I think the rumor was that there was going to be 4 450-ton cranes, which would lead to 2 in each aisle.
Okay.
Cool. And the other one that we have is from Anselates. They ask, will there be a viewing deck at the top of Gigabay, and at what height do you think it's going to be at?
I don't think there'll be a viewing deck like High Bay had. I mean, there is going to be a penthouse like the Mega Bays have on the top floor, and it should be roughly at I'm guessing probably around the 350-foot mark, because the building's 380. And I think right now I'm calculating that the main structure where the roof starts is going to be somewhere between 330 and 350. I can't quite tell yet.
Cool. And that's everything we've got right now.
Awesome. Well, I will go ahead and move us over to the launch site. I guess we'll start with a kind of further out view so we can kind of look at the expansion effort that's going on here. Seems like they've definitely, every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, wow, they're almost done. But there's still quite a lot left to do as far as just, delivering dirt. I can't tell if this is final grade here. I think it is.
No, they just dumped the dirt there. And if you look to the right, where they're actually dug it up and are compacting it.
Here?
Yeah, that whole area. They dropped the dirt in, and then they dig it up and they bring in some different fill.
Oh,
yeah,
so they're replacing.
Yeah, and that's a good way to think of it, Alex. This whole area confused me, because this is in a very dumbed down version. This was the spot where I was like, oh, they overfilled it, and then they had to scrape it back so that they could put the geo mesh at the right spot. But you're probably more right. They probably did just bring in too much, and then it's a different fill that's being put on top.
Yeah, you can. There's other shots where you can see the excavators. They've dug down probably 2 meters in areas when they started recompacting. But the bulk of what they're doing, they brought in the bulk fill. The road they put in is also, none of it's been really compacted down properly. Because, I mean, you can just watch what they're doing here is where you can see they have maybe they're doing probably 9-inch lifts.
What do you mean by that?
You put down a certain amount, and then you run the compactors over it, and then you put down another layer.
So you're saying those layers are 9 inches roughly?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, they're because it all depends on
between
how heavy
geogrid layers.
Yep.
Geomesh
Well,
layers.
they can do several dirt lifts between the geogrid. It's the geogrids in this instance is for transferring load. But yeah.
So basically, you're saying that before. I guess I'm a little confused on the previous thing. So that they dug a lot of this out again.
Yeah. They've been just dropping bulk fill everywhere and doing the minimum amount of rolling so that the trucks don't sink. And now they're actually doing the proper compaction. Sort of like what they did with Gigabay. They
Right.
put in the sheet piles and dug everything up and then started to put down their various engineered fill.
Right. That makes sense.
Of which most of it all got dug back out when they put the pile cap in, which is the funny
because
part.
it was
It's just the whole. It's just all that process of being able to make sure everything is properly supported for the process.
Right.
What do you think the difference in height is between these?
Probably it's going to end up being a meter or two. Pretty much like the border of the old
Right.
drop off.
I'm surprised they haven't stripped all this out yet.
Yeah, there's a bunch of new markings along that whole wall that we noticed this week. So it seems like maybe it's actually going to finally be removed. I mean, given the fact that we know that some of that southeast corner interferes with the trench itself, it was going to need to. But I think all these paint marks along the way might mean that it's finally coming out. Because we were talking about last night how it. Yeah, we were talking last night a little bit about how it's odd that it hasn't been removed already, with them starting to backfill up to it and still having it there.
Well, those look like drill strings, the orange ones. Yeah.
For tiebacks.
Yeah. No. They've done a couple of core drills. The drill they're probably going to use for dewatering. They've gone through and done some more test bores last weekend.
Did they really? I didn't think I saw the core drill actually move over here.
It was by the tower base.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, one of the main issues when they start dewatering this, if they do, is the making sure the tower does not get any drag down. Because when they pull the water out, the soil level could drop a little bit. So it almost looks like at 37 that they're using soil mix walls instead of sheet piles. But yeah, anytime you're doing major excavations next to an existing foundation, you have to be cautious.
Be really careful. Yeah.
Yeah. And if this area has some questionable geology and settlement. But yeah, it's interesting that they've already started doing the jet grouting around the tower.
I mean, that would be a good thing to do. That would have been a good thing to do before this, actually, if they could have done jet grouting in between the CFA piles. And angle.
They're using over here. They're using the existing piles to hold down the cap, the bottom plug. So they would have had to. They could have done full column and used those as cutoff walls. But,
well, I just mean like a inverted cone underneath this, basically come in from the angles underneath it, to just prop up the bottom of this foundation from all sides. That's a common method that they do with jet grouting.
Yeah, for certain
obviously not if there's existing piles necessarily, but
yeah. Well, the issue is with the piles and underpinning for building those columns. But this jet grouting they're doing is all for water, keep waterproofing.
Right. Cool. Um, yeah, lots of work going on with Pad A. They are obviously doing sheep high walls, jet grouting down here. And I think initially some people thought they were also preparing to do, they're dropping off steel for the to do the top of this tower as well, but I haven't seen anything for that.
Yeah, it's over. If you go down to the edge at the D5 entrance, the new entrance road down there, all the structural steel and the plates are stacked right farther. You gotta go farther to the new road entrance off the roundabout.
It's shoved all the way to the edge.
Yep. Yeah, and actually back in Sanchez, we actually saw some of the gusset plates for Tower 1 were in the piles over at Sanchez. Yep,
So down here.
Yep, that is all the steel for the Tower 1 roof.
Yeah, let's talk about the roof really quick. Kind of bounce around a little bit. Never mind. Let's go to tank farm first. So I've been a little bit confused. It seems like at first I thought maybe this was a commodities trench, but it's way too small. So is this a blast wall?
No, it's the commodities trench for the locks in LN2
From
from
the
the ASU.
ASU. It doesn't
Yeah,
look wide enough for that.
there are
Yeah.
probably going to be 6-inch lines in it. So
Oh, okay, relatively small.
Yeah. I'll be
yeah,
curious.
and
I'll be curious. That looks like that looked like footing for the blast wall, and it's roughly where the blast wall and the drawings are. But you could be right.
that looks like it's maybe a 4-foot wide footer. In LA County, a 6-foot retaining standard 6-foot retaining wall would require almost an 8-foot footing. So I'm pretty sure if that's the blast wall, it would probably require a much more substantial footing than that.
Yeah, you're right.
So this is a
The
little
blast
bit weird,
wall, the
though,
blast wall
because
over at Pad 2 is quite a bit bigger. You're right.
it's interesting though because it looks like these are the transfer pipes right here.
That's water for the
There's
cooling. That's where
but
is all the cooling towers are going to be. So there's
oh,
the
so you think all of this is water?
all of that's water for the intercoolers.
Okay, I was thinking
The
maybe
green
the
one,
two gray ones were.
no, the gray ones are the supply and returns for the intercoolers.
Okay, and then you have municipal supply.
We have some
And,
supplies. The green one is the only one that is probably cryogenic.
Yeah, if you scroll down a little ways, you can actually see a couple of capped off risers that are poking out of the ground there.
Yeah, the four bigger ones. There's four of the bigger main supply and returns
here?
on the end of the wing on the far right side. They're semi buried by the piles. Last week they would have been more visible, but as they've been excavating for all this conduit work, they've kind of piled up over the top of the main supply returns.
Yeah, this
Okay.
is all for the controls and power for the cooling towers.
Yeah, you can see them in those piles that are up against that top wall there, just a little bit. You can kind of see them sticking out.
They're right next to the concrete wall. If you look at the rebar,
Right here.
yeah,
There you
there's
go.
one of them. Yep.
Sure is a lot of conduit.
Yeah, and it's all surfacing right where each of those cooling tower assemblies are going to probably be.
And then the bunker is
Bunker is probably going to be
here-ish?
nope. That's all cooling towers. Bunker's
Is it
probably going to
closer to here?
yeah. On one of the plans submitted, the bunker is either there where your cursor is, or where they're excavating in front of the compressor hall.
Here?
Yeah, yeah. That
It seems to me like they've slowed down. With progress out here. Like,
I think it's just.
obviously over
I
there
think
they're
it's
making
just. Yeah. I think over at the this side of the lot, I think it's not that they've slowed down. It's just that it's because all those big chunks went in so quick. All the rest of the outfitting is much more fine tuning of things that you can't really see. Like in here, you can that X of bracing in the top of the top right corner module. That X bracing was added this week, and a lot of other small stuff. I know that a lot of that pipe work in the compressor area was. It's like they did a dry fit and then they removed a bunch of it for some maybe modifications to get the connections fitting, and now they're finally getting it back together with all the proper pipe stands and all that stuff to support it.
Yeah, and so we did confirm last week, I guess, that the one in Brownsville is active now.
Yeah, it is. And
Uh,
yeah, I mean, they're tying in all the main modules right now, so that's kind of why we don't see anything, like BJ was saying.
Right. And then the rest of the tank farm, there's some interesting things I was a little bit confused about in the tank farm. I can't remember. Did they already drill the piles? These are piles down here, right?
No.
I'm seeing no. So they
No,
haven't drilled the piles in this area.
Nope. I don't think they drilled most of the piles for any of the commodity trenches or for the OLM bunker.
This to me almost looks like they're preparing for Marvin to come in here and lift these out, and that they don't want to lift it into this area, that they want to lift them over here almost. Or
Yeah,
potentially even have. Go ahead.
Yeah, they have to remove these in stages so that they can maintain enough flow for, launching. So until those newer four are plumbed in, pretty much all of these have to stay.
Well, what I mean is this little ramp right here, this looks to me like, preparations for a crane to come in.
Oh yeah. Or as far as they're going to park the 11K for the static fire in Flight 12.
Oh,
Because that's going
that
to have
actually
to
makes
have
a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'll be curious. So I'm not sure that there's not enough length in that particular. That will be an interesting spot where they put the LR 11,000, given the fact of how long that mast is or the boom is.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah,
tell.
I figured.
Yeah, it doesn't. It hits the tower. Does no? It does. It looks like it would just slide.
I think it would hit the I think it would hit the chops. I don't think there's a direction to put the chopsticks. Where if the chopsticks weren't there, it could probably go like alongside the tower. But yeah, it'll be I'm not sure where they could manage.
Yeah, no, being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my initial thought, like I said when I saw this, was that because initially I figured when they removed these, they would just drive them out this way. But if they want to not have to deal with that, like if they bring the crane all the way in here, they could lift it onto a transport that's already staged over here instead of having to disrupt anything that may be laying around out here.
I think that's you're right. It's going to be the opposite of how they put the two large tanks at the end in.
Right. Oh yeah, they did lift these in, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
but that makes me think that this is happening soon.
They don't have a crane ready to lift those.
That's true.
And the rapidly multiplying embed plates.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are these for?
Originally, I thought they're for tanks, but I think there's 52 of those now.
Are there? I don't remember there being. Yeah, there's definitely a bunch more in there that don't make sense. I mean, there's the 3 sleds and at one point there was only 12 of them, which made sense for the 3 remaining tanks. Just we don't know where they're going.
Right.
Question, really quick, Alex. Why would this go back in this direction? instead of across this rack?
That rack may or may not be there in the future with the way they're going to rework everything with pad 1, and it's the method. If all the methane moves to the opposite side, which
Right. Just the idea of these being here at all right now just still makes me laugh, because just now that you can see the line from where the trench is.
Yeah, there's no way that, highly unlikely those are going to be there by the time pad 1 is online.
Yeah.
It just, yeah, if you look at inside where those people in orange are working, you can see in the
Wow, you're giving me a Where's Waldo right now?
the trench, that the potential commodities trench
Okay.
that they're doing the rebar, right where your cursor is in that lower
Yeah,
left.
yeah. I'm trying to zoom on them. Here we go.
It ties right in with the old commodity trench.
Oh, yeah. But this is this the old commodities trench? No,
They
Wait.
demoed the old one, and
but this is where it was, right?
yeah, it didn't veer to the left previously, but yeah, and
Do you guys think the big shells for the LOX pumps are still down here?
oh, guaranteed.
Fun.
Yeah, I think most of that demo was just above grade, and everything that's below is there until until it's required to be removed.
Yeah, this is crazy. Let's move over to pad 2. We're not going to start at the launch mount. We'll start with the integration tower, which they are slowly making progress on the new roof structure. With the way that the crane initially got set up, I thought that they were going to wait to do all the roof panels, but it seems like they're doing that on the ground, which makes more sense. But yeah, so completing the cladding on this, I imagine we'll probably see this lifted sometime this coming week.
Yeah, it would make a lot of sense to me to get it up there before any potential booster 19 testing, and so that the crane can go away and whatnot instead of waiting. But I don't know. It seems to be taking a little bit more time than I expected to get this finished off.
How come there's no columns up here yet? It almost looks like it's going to just sit on top of this,
Yeah.
but surely not,
Yeah.
right?
I think
No.
it's going to just sit right on top of it. That's why there's all the new plates in the webs of the beams were added there. Because if they were going to point load it, they wouldn't need to have all that uniform structural additions to some of them anyways.
What do you think the point is of putting a cap on top of it instead of just cladding this?
They needed to. They're essentially just dropping. That's just cladding, is essentially, if you look at it.
Yeah,
Like
I don't
it's
think
just
that.
cladding
My guess
straight.
is that this structural framework isn't engineered to take the load of of paneling and whatever forces that are applied to it from. I mean, I can't imagine that a ship's going to sit over it and really blast it forever. But there's something about the structural engineering of it.
The dynamic load of the plume hitting it, is pretty close. If what's the weight of the vehicle at that point, and how much energy are they putting in to slow it down so that gas flow would, once you impinge it they'll be transferring about that amount of load into that structure. It'll be a very quick transit, but
okay, they've been adding these onto here. I wasn't sure if they were adding them onto the bottom row yet, but initially when they first started adding these, it made me think that this structure was going to be taller, raised like columns to separate it. but I guess this is just for cladding across the front of this. So all of these will be going across the front here.
Yeah, but those added plates in the web are not actually the attachment points. The tabs that are on top of the lower beam and under the top beam, the original ones were all cut off, and then new ones were put in slightly different locations that probably line up with this cladding versus a potential older rendition of cladding.
What are figure out where these ones go?
On the end in front of the winch.
Oh yeah, stupid.
Well, not the winch, but the
Two levels
shifts.
right
But
there.
yeah. Yep.
Fun. Now they just got to do the rest of it. Because if they do these three sides and not these two, it's just gonna look stupid.
I think it's gonna look stupid. So
Yeah, I tend to agree with that.
unfortunately,
Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know. Function over. You know what I'm trying to say. I guess I don't really care about what it looks like per se.
no style points.
So this week, if you've been seeing me scroll through all of these thumbnails down here, they finally removed the scaffolding from below the hold down arms, which has been here since it was moved out, and now we can finally see through there, which is pretty wild. And Mauricio did a lot of passes to try and get that perfect overhead shot looking down on it, and yeah, I think this is the shot people have been waiting for a little over a year now, almost approaching that. But yeah, this is just really crazy to finally see it. Feel like we're probably nearing Booster 19's first visit out to the launch site. I think it seems like they're pretty much ready for that now. We've seen them do some purge testing on the I think it was the methane booster QD. I'm not sure if it happened on the LOX one as well.
I believe both of them.
Yeah, I thought I saw one screen grab that showed it coming out both.
Okay.
It looked very reminiscent of what they would do on the previous OLM prior to stacking.
Yeah, this just reminds me of a funny joke every time I look at this, but I'm gonna save that joke for the intro of my episode that I have coming out. But yeah, this is absolutely crazy.
But which episode? You have like 40.
Yeah, right. Yeah, working on 3 right now. As soon as I finish this show today, probably end up recording the rest of part 1, and then hopefully that'll be out next Friday. But yeah, lots to do. But this is like I said, just crazy, and I love just how much better it. You just look at it. I think with the first launch mount, you just look at it and you're like, I think when they first constructed it, it never looked like it was in a finished state, and even when it did look like it was in a finished state, it still felt unfinished. So it's just really wild to see the evolution in engineering that they've done out here. It's absolutely incredible.
So they had to hang up their spurs. No more cowboys.
No more cowboys. And I did post something on X the other night, and I meant to go back and explain it, but then I realized I can't really explain it. But what I said was sometimes it seems like intentional failures, or it seems like things that seems like they were accidents were actually intentional. And one of the things that I think appeared as if it was an accident was just the general construction quality of Pad 1. But in retrospect, after digging into what they've done with Pad 2 on a deeper level, I kind of think that a lot of the things we were like, why did you do that? They weren't mistakes. They were intentionally done to gather certain data that would then be used to make this what it is. So
Yeah.
I really think that they weren't even really trying. Like, I think that people believe that SpaceX thought version 1 launch mount was what this is. Like, it was the final product. But after looking into it deeply, I do think they knew immediately, as soon as they started building it, that there was no way it was ever going to be the final form. So yeah, it's just crazy to see that engineering evolution at work.
Yeah, it was an R&D project. You can just go back to how they put cladding in burn plates on the top deck in the various iterations, and it was stuck out like a sore thumb after Flight 11, where
Yep.
they cooked right next to the QD substantially. The amount of control they have, the control authority of that booster as it's coming up freed off the mount, is stunning. So, yeah.
I made a joke about Sam Patel in this episode because if you guys remember the Everyday Astronaut tour, this first one of the launch site, like their big thing for launch mount number 2 was that they're going to make it out of thinner gauge steel, and the biggest concern was weight. And
Yeah.
they did the exact opposite. Like, they way with the complete other direction.
Didn't Elon tweet when somebody asked when they first lifted the original donut, he alluded that, oh, the next one's going to be like 40% lighter or some nonsense?
I don't know if he actually said. I was. Did he?
Somebody,
Did he say that?
I thought it was a tweet of his, but it's, been purged.
But the funny thing is, the one that they built for 39A was the same, if not bigger. It was slightly bigger, I think. Yeah.
Wasn't it?
I wish they would show pictures of it.
Oh yeah.
I've seen lots of pictures of it that, like, for some reason still aren't public because it's a military base. And I keep wishing I actually had one. I showed a full picture of it in this episode because I'm like, well, I mean, it probably doesn't even exist anymore. But then I reached out to Marcus and he was like, absolutely not. Do not put that in your episode. So, but I wish people could see it because it's like, it did look way better than the original one, but you could see that it was still even bigger. It was still even, more advanced as far as, shielding, I guess you could say, than the original one. So
you could contact the base public and liaison and see if they'd clear you to show it.
I have considered that. I just don't know who to contact because I really do want to show it, and it's not like I'm trying to like reveal anything. It's it's gone. It doesn't exist anymore.
I'll see if I can find their email.
Cool.
I have the one for
awesome.
Dandy. Yeah.
But yeah, they are coming along out here. They do have some weird stuff that's going on down here. I don't know what they're doing.
They're adding more conduit.
Single conduit lines.
Yeah, it looks like that whole area is currently, you can't. There's so much.
Yeah, because this is supposed to be where a water farm is supposed to be here, which is weird. They haven't done anything down here.
About that, I think towards on the right, I don't know if we can see it off frame and up. Right there's those silver boxes between the Cybertrucks in a row. Right below, right across that, and those silver boxes to the right. I'm wondering if they're filters. Because they also have the vaults right poking by the
These?
No, down by the tent. There's the culvert of those silver ones.
Okay.
I mean concrete ones. I'm wondering if they're going to do some sort of settling and filtering. That's one thing we still haven't found.
Right. Do we have any questions from the launch site?
Yeah, we got some donations to go over first. Joni, she has just re-upped her RGV Early Access membership for the 13th month, saying thanks for the awesome stream. And we've got Sharpie with a $5 super chat saying excellent work, kudos to the RGV team. Drew Nar with a $5 Canadian super chat saying big thanks everyone for all the info and analysis. William Foss with a $5 super chat saying been lurking, thanks for keeping me and my company in the workshop. Pete 2.0 with Australian $2, I too am lurking. Then we got Yazada with another $5 super chat towards Mauricio's goal. And Drew Nar with another $5 Canadian super chat saying, do you think the roof is debris shielding since the ghost of SN11 is up there somewhere?
I mean, I don't know what kind of debris it would be shielding from, but I get the joke.
Absolutely. All
More like
right.
plume shielding, specifically for the ship, probably.
Absolutely. All right, we got one from Sergeant Snipey. He's asking, in the tank farm, basically, do you think they're eventually going to rearrange everything to make better use of the space?
I think the only thing that will stay where it currently is the LOX and liquid nitrogen tanks. But even that might change a little bit. I haven't looked at these three in a while. But yeah, everything that's down this direction is temporary. Everything that's from here over is more permanent. I would say the only question about what will remain here is if the methane stuff moves. I could see that happening. But yeah, the rest of it is going to move all of everything to the left.
Cool. And then the next one's from Gwen. How long do you think it will be until the ASU is in operation?
More than a year, if not two. This is what I was thinking. Maybe they were slowing down intentionally. As far as I know, and anybody can correct me, but I don't think they have the power to run that building. And as far as we know, they're going to have to run a new transmission line all the way from Brownsville, which is not going to be a fast thing to do, especially if that somehow ends up happening at the same time where methane pipeline action ends up happening. If they end up running alongside each other, that'll create additional difficulties as far as like timelines go. But yeah, I personally don't expect that ASU to be actually, theoretically, there is a massive power supply down here specifically for Pad 1, which currently isn't being used. So theoretically, they could tap in from that Pad 1 supply and run this until they get the new transmission line out here. Because you have all of these transformers down here.
I'm pretty sure the ASU's draws more than the pads draw. The ASU is probably the existing feed they had going to Starbase. Probably wouldn't be able to run it. Because it's probably a 35 megawatt.
Yeah, I mean, do you think it can run in a reduced capacity state?
Yeah, they would turn down. They would only run half of it essentially. They definitely could do, since they don't need its full capacity for a while.
Right.
So
And they don't need this. They don't need any of this for a while either. So they could
yeah,
temporarily tap into that.
yeah, they could run. They could put enough load shift with gigapacks and run the launch infrastructure off of basically the gigapack, sort of how they're doing 39A. Be enough.
I don't think they have anywhere near enough for that.
Not yet. I mean, they could install. That would be the only way, but
To expand this even further.
yeah, they'd have to expand this substantially because I mean,
Yeah.
like 10 times. But yeah, when they're moving the utilities for the road expansion, I'm surprised that they didn't change the poles. Because
What do you mean by that?
I think they have a 35 kVA feed coming from Brownsville. So had they put taller poles, they could run higher voltage and brought their power in that way. They were moving. They had to move. They're moving all the utilities for the road expansion all the way to Brownsville currently.
Speaking of road expansion, turns out this is just for turnout.
For now, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna call Lab so he can put Rover 1 back here. That's really.
Well,
So this is all for being able to turn out from here.
And for probably broken over vehicles leaving Gigabay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
guess.
that I mean, I could even see them taking it like ahead of a closure, coming out and then parking over there until the closure opens, and then come back onto the road, so it's not
That would be
blocked.
sick.
Yeah, and
That would be so amazing to just leave it there, like
Photographers would go
laid
crazy,
over on
and
itself. Oh my
we would
God,
love to
that would
see
be
it.
amazing.
well, I really don't like their road calming that they did, putting all the gravel to discourage Rover 1.
This?
Yeah, that whole gravel embankment they put in there, you can't. It's hard to walk on. You can't park on it, so it's just this.
Well, I imagine they'll let people park right here.
Mm,
We'll find out.
it's a pretty big drop.
Oh, this drops down.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a big
So this is
ravine.
like a
It's like a
ditch?
water run. It's like a water.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a runoff ditch. Yeah.
Snaky.
Yeah, it's intentional. It's traffic calming. It's what you do to encourage people's behavior.
Yeah, I mean, I could totally see people still pulling over here though.
Oh yeah,
then-
it will.
Yeah, like it.
Security will
But
come
that's cool
over.
though. That's good though. I mean, in my opinion, because it's safer than what was there initially.
Yeah, the only thing
there
will
was
be
quite a
what
bit of space on the side of the road, but
yeah, the biggest thing though is the fact that the ground painting and the signs all say no parking, so they'll probably shoo you away if you do try and park in there.
yay.
The cat and mouse
cool.
photographer game.
Yeah.
I think we interrupted Matt in the middle of a question that he was asking from the audience.
No, you guys were actually answering it. But real quick, Joni sent in a $5 super chat saying, hope this helps for something. And then I got a reminder of discussing the B-19 rollout. I had asked that earlier in the show, and you asked to wait for it.
Oh,
hopefully
yeah.
soon.
I mean, I guess I kind of alluded to it with the whole removing the scaffolding thing that will probably, and the testing with the booster QDs, we'll probably end up seeing that sooner rather than later. What do you guys think?
End of the week.
Yeah, I think by the end of the week it'll be out here, maybe midweek. I doubt it'll be early in the week, but yeah, if it was still 2 weeks out, I think I don't think that platform would have came out for another week if we were 2 weeks out.
How many engines do you guys think it has on it?
33.
All of them?
Yeah, I think they'll have all of them.
Can't wait for
I
that.
know there's rumors that it'd come out with the Inner 13 first.
I would be surprised if it didn't, honestly.
I mean, it simplifies your first stack on the mount because you don't have to worry about door clearance since there's nothing to hit. And you're gonna have to do. They're gonna have to do 2 static fires anyway. One for landing tank and one for everything. So there's a certain amount that it would sort of track. But
Right.
this also isn't their first rodeo, so yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree that there'll be that we won't go straight to a 33 engine static fire, but I don't see any reason why they would transport it back to put the outer 20 on and then bring it back for a second round of static fire testing. That doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, I can't necessarily think of a reason, but
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I don't know. Time will tell.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
ease is the only reason I would see them. Just any concern about alignment the first time they're lowering it on and placing a booster without any of the helpers.
Yep, nice new paint lines for the alignment.
Those
so
are
this
the
is for booster, and this is ship?
yeah. One's park it like he's stole it, and the other one's no.
Yeah.
I wonder why the booster isn't coming in on the same one. That
Because booster has to be
these,
because to get out of Mega Bay 1 with the grid fins, booster has to be rotated something other than straight onto the single
right, yeah,
fin. And
that makes sense. These paint markings are gonna last for all of
not long.
a few months.
That's optimistic.
Right. Well, I was thinking these ones have actually been here for quite a while.
One thing I noticed is this photo doesn't have it. I was looking. There's actually two coils of flex lines attached to the tower in the would be the right hand corner here. I saw a manifold in some of the ground shots that had some flanges sitting there. I wonder if it's some kind of temporary ground side press lines or something. Yeah, right. You can kind of see them. There's another shot that's a little bit farther around, but on the ground actually, there's those 2 spools with flex lines that go up into the Drawworks side.
So the ground plates aren't set up yet.
Yeah, potentially.
How I didn't realize you could get flex lined by the spool.
I've seen a 14-inch, I think it was an 8-inch, maybe 7-inch flex line, is about a quarter mile long on a spool. For oil and gas is the biggest. We weren't supposed to do this, but the first time we used it, we had like a half mile of it spread out across the ground, and we assumed that once we started pushing 10,000 psi through it, that the whole thing was gonna jump. It literally didn't move at all.
Wow.
Like, yeah, it is insanely heavy. I don't even know how. I wish I could remember the weight of it, but yeah, it was one of the. I didn't even think you could make something like that. But yeah, just. I mean, it's 7-inch. That's 7-inch inner diameter. So when you have a braided line like that, I think the outer diameter is maybe like 9 inches or something. But yeah, immensely heavy. It was crazy. I think we put 4 miles of it, laid out 4 miles of it one time
And
to
this
connect,
is
like, because
why
they don't in Texas, they like in the oil and gas industry, they try and like save money by, instead of doing 5 different pads individually, we'll have all your equipment on one pad, and then we'll run this, $5 million 2-mile long flex hose over to the other one, so you guys can do 2 at the same time. Crazy.
yeah, that's the reason why like the COPV issues is such a head scratcher. They're running it at low pressure compared to what the oil and gas industry does when they're fracking.
Oh yeah, I've seen, I think 12 grand operating pressure is like kind of standard in Texas, 12,000 psi, which is
Yeah,
incredible. To have 12,000 psi next to you at all times for weeks at a time is
unsettling.
see lots of failure events. We'll just say that, lots of iron failure. I've
Oh.
seen lots of flex hoses fail too. That's the scariest. We had like a defective batch of hoses, and we lost like 4 of them in 4 days, and like probably the craziest week of my life hearing something like that rupture. Anyways,
Fun stuff.
probably go on for just to telling stories for days, but yeah, unless we have any other questions or things that we maybe missed.
Yeah, we got a few more questions. Dave W. is asking, do you think they will wait to build the Pad 1 OLM until after they learn how the new Pad 2 OLM works?
Nah. I think they knew exactly what they were doing this time. Not to say they didn't last time, but I think their intentions and future proofing, the fact that it's fully sealed up right now, is a sign that they don't even feel like it's necessary to wait until they've verified that everything works by having a tanking test. They completely skipped that because they are confident in what it's going to do exactly what they want to. I mean, the amount of safety systems that are on this, like Pad 1, literally, they had to add safety systems in over time. Like there was no redundancy. It was just like the bare minimum. This is redundancy all over the place. And just massive amounts of sensors and monitoring. Like they didn't even really have many sensors in the initial system when they first started testing. Like they had to add sensors for everything over time. Oh, hey, we should probably be measuring this. Oh yeah, wow, we should. And then every week we would see them add new things onto that launch mount. So yeah, they've learned a lot. And I mean, they're just not the same company they were back then, I would say.
Yeah, just when they added for the LOX manifold, tanking manifold stuff, forgot when they put that in compared to what they had previously. And just for little things, there's basket strainers on every important inlet.
Yeah.
And we don't even, I mean, I'm pretty sure Zach and I could go for a day
Days.
if we wanted days going over everything. Yeah, it's not the same as it was previously. And the nice thing is the learnings from the showerhead bidet, they just applied it to the top deck. And unfortunately, it looks like they had to maintain enough pressure so that they wouldn't have since they don't know where the plumes are going to be. So it's that deck is probably more powerful than the OG bidet.
I would not be surprised if they end up welding some of the holes shut on that thing. But yeah, it's, man, I'm not even going to go into that.
Yeah,
I intentionally didn't want to be on the show last week because I didn't want to talk about that. So yeah, anyways, I think they're painting this wall. We might see that Mars sign come back, Gateway to Mars sign, once they finish painting this.
maybe in 2 months or after the first launch, Zach, we could go a little deeper on the top deck
Yeah,
for people, for the
for
fans.
sure.
But yeah, no, I don't want to say more.
Speaking of the deluge, Schizocork is asking, how long do you expect the static fires will be?
That's a good question. I think it depends on which static fire. Like if they do the header tank one, I imagine the header tank static fire will be a full duration landing burn. So whatever that is. How long did those last? Like 20 seconds ish,
Yeah,
maybe? Yeah, I would expect them to go full duration on that. The 33 engine tests probably longer than they have in the past, but not by a lot.
yeah, because this will be pretty much the first time they'll probably be able to simulate the whole burn and we lost an engine, ramp it,
Yeah.
go over all the failure modes without worrying about
Well,
their infrastructure.
we have seen 60-second deluge tests, so I mean theoretically, like it probably turns on like 5 to 10 seconds before ignition, and it also turns off 10 to 15 seconds after. So I guess maybe the longest we would see is 30 seconds, 20 to 30 seconds.
Yeah, because after 11, when they blew out the deluge tanks, that thing went forever.
11.
Yeah. That night or whenever they did it.
How long did it? I don't know if I had that one.
Yeah, I think it was like during that full test was like 45 seconds, something like that. It was just not quite a minute, from what I remember.
Yeah, I've been wanting to see. I need to go back and look at that actually, because it's hard to put numbers to the flow rate of the system because we never know how much they actually used. But like trying to like guess the flow rate from this system is funny because I was just like doing some math and I even like was using ChatGPT to like talk through some of it. And it was like, no, there's no way it's over 800,000 gallons per minute. And I'm like, okay, but you just told me that SLS deluge system peaks out at 1.2 million. So why would it be unreasonable for this to be higher? It has to be higher. You can just tell when you look at it, like it's definitely more.
It's targeted. I mean, you can make. Yeah. There's certain assumptions you can make for the flow volume they could get through it, but
yeah. Anyways, on that note, I guess we'll probably start to wrap things up here. Unless we missed anything, Matt?
I do have a couple more questions for this area, and then like 4 or 5 kind of general questions if you're interested.
Sure. Yeah, let's try and do like the top 3 because I do have to head out of here.
Yeah, no worries. So Nicholas Dornan was asking about how many retractable cameras are under the mount. I think it's 4, isn't it?
Yeah, there's 4 of them. There was actually one of these images where you could see it from above. Maybe it's one of the first ones. Yeah, you can see one of them down here. So there's one on each side. So 4 of them. Should have some pretty interesting views during static fire or even launch, maybe. Possibly. I have a feeling they're not going to be able to see anywhere near as much as they were able to before because of the detonation suppression system, but we'll find out.
Absolutely. And Curtis Rorick is wondering if there is a finite lifespan on the flame bucket, or if that's going to be like a permanent fixture, like if they ever might have to change it out or anything.
It's a maintenance type item. If you McGregor, how much ablation they're going to get, and how long it'll last, no idea.
Yeah, I think they have an idea of how long it lasts, but I don't think it's possible to truly predict that, and I also don't believe in things lasting forever. So
Yeah, it's definitely a wear item.
For sure. And we'll cap it off with this one from Kiwi Liam, asking for Pad 2, will the booster be landing in the chopstick areas over the launch mount or off to the side where the sticks are currently positioned?
I don't know if we know for sure. I mean, we don't necessarily know yet. I have a feeling it'll be over the launch mount though, because of the.
Weren't they
bidet
testing like
system.
a second kind of thing? So whenever the booster or the ships were coming down and stuff, they were kind of when the booster came down, weren't they setting off the system again on Pad 1?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and that didn't make sense because it was beneath the legs. It was really, I guess, to protect the pad over here. This will be more effective in that situation, and I think that alone might make it so that you don't necessarily have to worry about landing over this. Although maybe they don't want the engines sweeping over the top of these booster QDs, which they most certainly will if they land over the launch mount. But yeah, for that reason, they could theoretically do it over here just for that purpose. But I have a feeling they're going to do it over the launch mount.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I think it'll be
Same.
that corner between the methane and towards Highway 4, the open.
Say that again.
Yeah, I think it'll be that what would that be, the northeast corner? Yeah.
So like
So-
over the corner of the launch, and not off the mount, but like over the corner of the mount.
Yeah, the other,
Northeast.
yeah, right there is where I think it's their target's going. But again, I think it's going to be determined by the vehicle's trajectory more than worrying
Where
about
they want it to be.
infrastructure. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's similar to all the extra reinforcement on the booster that they've done, where they want it to be able to do things that they don't necessarily plan on always doing, but just in case it needs to happen, they want it to be able to do it. So I think that the deluge system in this system is on this launch mount is designed for every scenario, the ideal scenarios and the off nominal.
Yeah. And the more spicy approaches.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. You said there was 2 more?
Oh, we have a bunch more, but you were saying you just wanted 3.
Yeah, I do have to head out.
Yeah, no worries.
Are you trying to find your second one?
Oh no, I asked 3 already.
Was that 3? Wow.
Yep.
I'm terrible at counting. I thought that was 1. Alrighty then. Well, yeah, we do have the Starbase Expanded show that will be on Tuesday as always. So if y'all did not, for some reason, get your questions answered today, we're sorry for that. But you can come in on that Tuesday show where we will be covering things that we didn't have time to get to today, which is quite a few different areas. So yeah, with that said, thank you to everybody who donated and gifted memberships today. We always appreciate that. If you guys haven't done so, make sure to hit that like button. Always appreciate the free things that you're able to do in order to help boost the channel a little bit. So yeah, with that, also thank you to Alex and BJ for helping me out, Matt for handling questions and donations, and of course Mauricio for getting over there and taking these incredible images every week, and also to the mods in the chat. And with that, I will go ahead and pass it off to Alex.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, BJ. It's a fun show, like always. And yeah, any questions Tuesday? We'll probably have plenty of time to get to. So with that, off to you, BJ.
Yeah, thanks for everyone joining. Thanks, Zach and Alex. It's great to have a great conversation, chat about all the things. And yeah, definitely some fun things in this next week that are likely to give us even more to be excited about.
All right, and yeah, just again to parrot exactly what Zach said, we appreciate y'all being here, and to go a little bit more into detail about the expanded show for this week, Mauricio is out there currently taking some ground pictures, so that's going to be really interesting. So if you guys want some really killer detail and a great conversation, please be sure to join us on Tuesday for the expanded show. It is at 6 p.m. Central Time. So look forward to seeing you all there in a couple of days. And with that, most engines cut off, hot staging confirmed. Love you, bye.